Good morning, Raptor freaks. Lexi Otts here. Tuesday morning, the Raptors are playing the second game against the Charlotte Hornets of a two-game series against them in Charlotte. Very good game for them on Sunday, and we're hoping they can repeat those kind of results today. Today is the easiest game left on the schedule for sure. As far as this is the thing. Charlotte has gotten even worse since we've seen them on Sunday. They're not having guys come back into the lineup. They're losing more guys. In fact, nobody's added back from the injury list to be playing in this game for Charlotte today. No Kelly Oubre. Let me just go over it. Who all's out? LaMelo's out. Terry Rozier's out. Kelly Oubre Jr. is out. Gordon Hayward is out. PJ Washington is out. Dennis Smith Jr. is out. Terry Rozier, as I said. And now the difference between Sunday and now is that Mark Williams, the rookie center that we played against on Sunday, is now day-to-day and may not play today. So that's the only difference for the injury list for the Charlotte Hornets. Nobody coming back, but more people going towards being injured. So that's a good thing for us. As far as things with us, Will Barton is probable for the game today. I'm telling you, he could have played in the Sunday game, but he didn't. But he could play today. We'll see. Gary Trent Jr. is still questionable. And I'm going to tell you, Nick Nurse showed frustration about Gary once again in his practice interview yesterday, talking about this. This is basically what Nick said. At this time of year, with what's going on with what we're trying to do, I'm against resting on caution of injury. He said that basically. And I was like thinking about, well, you saw how Scotty and OG got hurt in the last game possibly, and you kept playing them. So he's like, I don't know if Nick's being reckless. I don't know what's going on with him. I go from like being okay with what he's doing to not being okay because of Friday to being all right. Now he's showing a fire on Sunday. And then yesterday, he's like a mixed bag in his interviews. Like he really is like confused and kind of in a weird place and just kind of like uncomfortable and not, I don't know. The writing's on the wall. I really do think it is. If he's able to figure things out with Masai in the front office, so be it. That'd be awesome. But man, it really does seem like he's on his way out. Even more like yesterday in the interviews, he was very flippant and kind of like angsty and fighty once again, and not very like happy. You could tell he's not happy and that he's like, still argumentative and not like wanting to, I don't know. It's very strange. Mike's here. Salute the real ones. Project Truth always. And Isaac Campbell is saying that's a good morning injury report. Yeah, he's mad at Gary. I can tell Nick is mad at Gary because he's not playing right now. In fact, it's such a weird situation since they're both Klutch clients that Nick, man, are you doing this on purpose or what's going on? Or is this some sort of weird way to get his value up by saying you need him out there so bad? I don't know. It's very weird. I mean, I can understand wanting to get Gary back for a couple games before the play-in game so that he can find a rhythm and get his shots going and shooting and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. But you are really mad about Gary not playing right now. It's really weird. Whenever they ask him about the injuries right now, he's like, I don't know why they're not playing. That's what he says. And he wasn't as upset about OG. OG is listed on the injury report also, guys, just so you know. And I would be okay with OG taking today off as far as things. He is day-to-day questionable with his ankle from the injury from the last game. So, listen, we got to take care of business. We sit at 39 wins right now. We can win tonight. We'll be at 40. And that means we only need to win one more game out of the last three to be a 500 team for the season. And that's a great goal to have. Hey, win 2 out of the last 3. Boom, all of a sudden you have a winning season. So this one is a must win today. And it's going to be a weird game. I'm going to tell you right now, there's some weird stuff I got to tell you guys about today's game. They're very, very weird, but in some ways, very good news also. Jimmy's saying Gary probably being overly cautious because he's a free agent. That's why Nick is probably upset because he knows he can play and he's sitting out when we need him most. My speculation. Yeah, I think you're pretty right, Jimmy. That seems like what it is from the outside. That you can kind of read between the lines as far as things and like know that, what's Gary's situation for the summer coming up? And does that mean because Nick has also hinted that he doesn't even know if Gary's going to return this season. that he may be shut down for the rest of the season. He's just done. He's not coming back. All right, so there was some news late last night. Just so you guys know, the Boston Celtics have signed Justin Champagnie to be on their roster at this point for the rest of the season in the playoffs. This is crazy. I mean, this is really good for Justin. I'm really happy for him, but in some ways, this is like really a crazy move against us. And I don't like it totally. I really, really don't. In some ways, we're projected to play the Celtics in the first round. And, them having Justin all of a sudden is very much like one of those kind of moves. He's been playing very, very well for Sioux Falls since he went to their organization, averaging like 18 points and like 12 rebounds or something like that, and just killing it there. Now, it's a weird one. Of course, he's going to have some dog in his fight to come at us. And we're going to play them 2 games in a row starting tomorrow. And Justin will be in their jersey. This is going to be very strange. I really don't want to predict any Justin Champagnie revenge games here or anything like that. I really don't know. But if he's going to do any of that kind of stuff, I'd rather him do it tomorrow or Friday than in a crucial playoff game if we play them in the first round. So go ahead and get your angst out on us now, Justin. We'll see if you can get it out on us. We'll see if we'll let you. But yeah, this is a little bit like something we were worried about earlier this season when we dropped Justin from our team and waived him. Would this come out back to bite us? Him going to another team somewhere else, and now it's the Celtics, and he's going to be on the Celtics starting today, which is crazy to me, absolutely crazy. Infamous the same morning, there's a great interview with Taylor Rooks and Fred. Yes, the day off in Charlotte yesterday, some of the Raptors were doing media. Fred VanVleet doing Taylor Rooks podcast that I watched last night. It's an hour-long interview, and also doing Ahmet Mann and CJ Miles podcast also. And then Siakam is on ESPN yesterday getting interviewed also, talking about certain things and stuff like that. Let's start with Siakam real quick. Siakam was asked on, I guess, what was the show? I forget what the show is. It's First Take or something. I don't know. NBA Today, something like that on ESPN. And Siakam's on there. And they asked him about Nick Nurse's coaching future. And he said this: "That's a question above my pay grade. I have no idea what's going to happen. We focus on the season and wanting to finish strong. The whole coaching thing, that'll be a Masai and Bobby question." So, it's funny that Siakam, somebody pointed this out on Twitter. It's funny that Siakam always says that that's above his pay grade, or that's not my job description. The job description thing makes sense, but when he says pay grade, that doesn't make any sense because it's below your pay grade, bro. You're making $30 million a year. That's more than the other people that you're talking about, as far as Masai and Bobby and Nick. So it's actually below your pay grade, Pascal. But yeah, he's just playing dumb. But if I'm reading what he's saying, he has no a vested interest in it completely emotionally. Like, I can tell this dude's like, you know what? In some ways, you'd be like, if this is your really dear coach and you really care about, you would kind of be like saying, "Oh, I really love Nick and I really want him to be back," and stuff like that, or something like that. But that's not what he said. That's not what Pascal said. So in some ways, you can tell that he's like, you know what? Whatever happens, I'm okay with it, is really kind of what Pascal said in that interview. It's not that he said that he didn't want to make the decision. He's just saying, I don't care. If he's my coach next year, that's great. If he isn't, I don't care either way. I just, let them decide, and I show up and do my job, is basically what Siakam's saying there. Now, as far as the Fred VanVleet interview, fantastic stuff with Taylor Rooks. They cover all kinds of stuff, guys. They cover so much stuff. And so many interesting things said on it. He's not as feisty in this interview as he is in the Ahmet Mann, CJ Miles interview that will be released today. We only got a little snippet of it yesterday. And the Ahmet Mann one, Fred said this. He said, "If you are not playing basketball, if you are not someone who plays in the NBA, somebody that I look up to like Kyle or Kawhi, or somebody like Luka Doncic, I'm not going to listen to you when you talk about basketball because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about," is basically what Fred's saying. He says that if you're not involved in the NBA and then you're not a player, then I don't care what your opinion is. when it comes to anything basketball. If you're going to critique me or tell me how I should play my game, I don't give a shit, because you are not qualified to make any kind of advice to me, is basically what Fred said. And you go, Fred. I believe that too. This year, I've tried not to tell you how to play your game. I've just said, look, I've stood up for Fred, or I said, look, this is why he does things the way he does, and done that kind of stuff. I'm not going to tell Fred not to do this or not to do that. I'm just going to say, shoot some more and make them, and we'll win. That's what I said to Fred in his face when I met him. I said, dude, we love you. We want you to shoot more. We believe in you when you take shots. Keep shooting. And he thanked me. So in a way, I did indirectly give him some advice about how to play basketball. I said, shoot more. And he thanked me. He said, yes, I would love to. And he's like, this guy's a real one, is what he said to me. And then he said, give him a good picture. So that's what I'm saying, is like, listen, he don't give a shit about any of what our opinions are, especially certain people we know we don't want to talk about anymore. And that it's hilarious that he's got to be somewhat tuned in to the noise on the street. Who knows who they're listening to and stuff like that. But yeah, crazy, crazy stuff. Great interviews by Fred. Of course, if he's sitting in Charlotte yesterday and they ain't got done nothing to do but practice, if they're going to find other things to do, they're important. We saw Christian Koloko going to a Mendocino store and getting fitted for a nice suit yesterday. Yeah, going in there and doing an advertisement to get a very tall 7-foot suit on Christian Koloko's body. Yeah, see, these guys were doing things yesterday. I've seen Scotty in the last couple days eating chicken and waffles at a restaurant with his friends in Charlotte. These guys are getting a couple days off. Thank God it's Charlotte and not some crazy nightlife spot. I mean, there's probably some pitfalls and crazy things you could do in Charlotte, but it's very tame compared to Miami or LA or New York or something like that. So in some ways, the 1 day off in between games for the Raptors is not a scary thing to me, like it would be if it was another city. So yeah, very cool stuff done on the off day by the Raptors. Lots of media done. Lots of content coming out with Fred specifically. He spoke to Taylor Rooks about Ben Taylor and about the whole situation with him. He feels very bad putting Ben on blast specifically with his name. In fact, that's one thing he regrets about the whole situation, that he should have maybe been critical of the refs, but he feels bad naming Ben Taylor, that he felt like that wasn't right to do. And that he said the referees have one of the hardest jobs in the world. It is impossible to do and be completely fair, and that there's ultimate scrutiny. And then another very interesting thing that Fred said about the refs was that the referees are now getting scrutiny like the players have always gotten scrutiny, that people know who their names are and they're watching every play and they're keeping track of everything that they're doing. Well, who's that? Who's doing that? Me, maybe? Yeah. And in some ways, Fred said now they know what it's like, that what we've been going through, the scrutiny that an NBA player goes through. Now an NBA ref goes through to a degree, because they're looking at every single call, every single play, and they're analyzing it all. And in some ways, that's fair, but it's a very, very difficult job to do, NBA reffing. And Fred wanted to say that. He was very diplomatic and really just on point. There's so much good stuff in that interview. It was a really good interview. Fred came off really well in it. Once again, one of the most important things he talked about was his motivations. And he said exactly what I've been telling y'all. The only thing he cares about is getting another championship. He doesn't care about individual awards. He doesn't care about the money. He wants to win more championships. And he made that very clear in that interview with Taylor Rooks, that is all that he's about. In some ways, he doesn't like the championship culture, championship or bust, or judging guys on whether they won a championship or not by their NBA career, because it's very difficult to get those. But in a lot of ways, once again, he said he orients his whole idea of what his goals are and what his plans are by wanting to win another championship. So he said the exact right things when it comes to all that. And I'm just so happy to see Fred doing media and being outspoken and making things clear about where he stands on certain things. This is important right now. Very, very important. All right, let me see what else you guys are saying here. Good to see so many names and filling it up quick. I was like, nobody's here. I was like, oh, wait, now everybody's here. This is awesome. You guys just showed up. I love it. Mike is saying, I think Nick's more frustrated with the reporters and questions. The articles being written by the reporters. Grange is milking the storyline, asks about the rumors, then writes the story, isn't going away. Yeah, this is very weird and interesting as far as what's happened with this whole thing. In some ways, it is very much Nick's fault. But listen, I think that he planted it, and they didn't do this right. Basically, all right. So he says something. He probably had an interview with Doug Smith, and he probably did say something to him personally last week at some point, and that's why Doug started all the damn rumors and started that crazy fucking article that everybody's going, he's out of pocket and all stuff. But Nick didn't make a protest. In fact, he doubled down on it. Maybe it didn't take right, because part of the problem is Doug Smith isn't reliable anymore. He's made too many mistakes with Armani Brooks and other dumb things that he's done that people don't look at him as a credible news source anymore. So even Doug Smith just putting a rumor article out last week wasn't enough to get the message across. So Rich Paul and Klutch told Nick, you need to say it in your interview so that it gives weight to the rumors. And so he did. And this is the crazy thing. Like, once again, Grange went over this on the Raptors show yesterday with Will Liu and Alex Wong. He talked about this whole situation and how it went down. And it does matter the way Grange lays it out. He said, look, none of the local reporters were at the media scrum on Friday night for the Raptors. It was Philadelphia reporters that were there. And in particular, the Philadelphia reporter that asked the question to Nick told Michael Grange afterwards that he did not intend to get that answer from him. In fact, he didn't even ask him that question. He just asked him a question like, this season's been difficult. How do you feel about this season and how it's gone? And Nick went from that question into saying all that bullshit that he said. And he was shocked, because that Philadelphia reporter wasn't expecting to get such an honest, crazy answer like that at that moment. And it opened a whole can of worms. So it really is on Nick's fault. But if he's mad at the reporters, Mike, that's his damn fault that he did that. He could have let that rumors with Doug Smith sit, but he wanted the Doug Smith rumor out there. And then he wanted to validate it by saying what he said on Friday night. But then now it's gotten too out of control. He's been all over ESPN. They're taking the odds on whether he'll be the Raptors coach next season, and they're not good. And listen, people like Michael Grange, Lindsey Dunn, and Aaron Rose are just licking their chops because this is the content they want. They don't give a shit about whether our team's healthy or things are good for our team. They just want content. They just want things to write about. Aaron Rose himself said it to Oren Weisfeld. They were arguing about this. Oren's feeling upset about Nick and betrayed. And Aaron's like, why are you upset, Oren? This is great for us. We can write all the great content and go crazy on this stuff. But Oren's like, no, this is not good for the team. And this is not good for Coach Nick. And this is not good for a lot of different reasons. Meanwhile, Aaron Rose just gives a shit about his journalistic career and writing about all this kind of stuff. This is great for us, dude. Chill out, bro. Oren, don't be a wet blanket, man. I love you, Oren Weisfeld. Don't be like Aaron Rose. Seriously. So Michael Grange, he was really honest on the Raptors show yesterday. And he said some interesting things. He said, look, I look at it this way with Nick Nurse and what's happened, his relationship with the players and his relationship with the front office is basically like this. He says it doesn't think it's too fractured, either one. It's just that it's kind of strained. And that this season has been very, very difficult. And of course, it's going to wear you out and wear you down mentally and physically just because of the way it was. And listen, the players have not given up on Nick. This is what Michael Grange sees from the practices and the different places of him being around the team. He said that they're still listening to him. They're still buying in, and they're still doing the things that he wants them to do. That is not the issue. Is there an issue between front office and Nick? Well, Michael Grange thinks, yeah. That there was some point, maybe sometime in the season, where things got argumentative or things weren't seeing eye to eye. And there was a little bit of a separation between Masai and Nick as far as their vision and things that are happening with this team. But he also did reiterate that he sees Nick having open communication with Bobby and Masai around the team, no problem. And it doesn't seem like there's real hard feelings. They're still able to effectively communicate and go back and forth and function. And that's important. There's not like hard feelings where people aren't talking to each other because they hate each other, something like that. So it's a weird situation. Relationships are not broken with Nick Nurse, but they're strained. And I think that's the way to really kind of like describe the whole situation with the Raptors right now. The relationship is strained. Now, I said on Sunday, I was very happy with Nick in the way he showed fire and anger towards Lindsey Dunn and caring about our team. Well, once again, yesterday in his interviews, he didn't impress me. He seemed really casual, and he seemed like I don't really give a shit. So he's kind of yo-yoing back and forth between me thinking and buying into him being still checked in and caring about the Raptors and him not. And yesterday, once again, his interview told me he wasn't checked in. He doesn't really give a shit. In fact, some of his body language and the way he was answering the questions was very yeah, I don't care kind of things. At this point, I really don't care about this. And it was like he was saying a lot of shit like that yesterday. So I don't know. I don't know what to think with Nick. We're just gonna ride the wave and just see what happens. Hopefully, good things happen. And whatever happens with Nick, so be it. It's kind of out of our hands in some ways right now at this point. Smooth is here. Good to see Smooth Brown Man. Good morning. Did you research Greg Francis? I did, and I did find out all kinds of great stuff about him yesterday because I just didn't know his name. I mean, I really do focus on the NBA and pro basketball and the Raptors. And I don't know focus as much on Canadian basketball and different people in the basketball community here in Canada. But Greg Francis was a great coach, a great player back in the day, and an important part of Canadian basketball community here in Toronto. There's a lot of people that are very upset about his passing. And you guys came in and told me about it before it really kind of hit the news all over the place in the afternoon. All the tributes and all the nice articles and stories written about Greg and his impact on a lot of people. On Twitter, there's so many people tweeting about this man's my mentor. This is somebody that taught me things about basketball and believed in me. And I appreciate that about him. I have no idea who he was, and I have no idea what he did or anything like that. But when you find a mark of the man, when you hear somebody pass, and then you hear all the legacy and the stories about him afterwards, and he just sounded like such a great person in general, a great teacher and a great mentor and a great ambassador for the sport of basketball here in Canada, and encouraging and helping young Canadians get better and better at the sport. Rest in power, Greg Francis, somebody in the Toronto basketball community that we will remember and appreciate for a long, long time. Even though I never knew who you were, I'm learning about you now, and I realize you're a really great person. G saying you should comment on those posts to maybe get followers. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe G, maybe you're right. Maybe I should go in there and start talking some stuff. I seen that Buddy is in there doing stuff in there, writing stupid stuff in there, of course. Cool Cat saying, good morning, Raptor Freak crew. The only media approved, I think, was Pascal's All NBA interview. I think the other interviews could have waited until the end of the season. We should keep focus on moving up, playing in playoffs. All right, Cool Cat. I'm going to disagree with you. The Pascal interview is great, but in some ways he didn't help things in some of the ways that he answered the Nick Nurse question. Now, Fred was fine. I watched that Taylor Rooks interview, and he's fantastic in that interview. There's nothing in there that's going to distract or hurt us in our season ending up right now. So I have no problem with Fred doing his interview. And while I have to see the other one with CJ Miles, in some ways, he's going to come in like a ball of fire. I can already tell. CJ's like saying, whoa, Fred laid it out in that interview with Ahmed Man that's going to be released today. Well, I'll hold my opinion on that one. The Taylor Rooks one is perfectly fine. There's nothing in it that's explosive or going to be a problem for the team. That's a distraction. Well, we'll have to see if it's the same for this other one that's coming out today. But I like Fred doing the interviews right now. Like I said, these guys are players. They're in the middle of the season. And there's, Fred did the JJ Redick one in the middle of the season. There wasn't really that big of a deal. I know a lot of people get upset about it. Like Chev was upset about it. And there were a little bit of things that upset me about it. But this one with Taylor Rooks, there's nothing wrong with it. It's very harmless. And then the one, she asked him about the CBA agreement and how he feels about it. He says he likes a minimum for awards, the 65 games for the awards. He also, he's not a big fan of the in-season tournament, though. That in some ways, a lot of ways, Fred is a traditionalist, and he'd like to keep the NBA kind of more like it was when he was a kid and stop changing all the rules and moving everything around. And but he did admit that the game is changing, and that when he's older, is going to be a totally different game that he doesn't recognize, just like it is for old heads now. That the game is totally different than the guys in the 90s recognize, and that's just how it happens. The game grows and shifts and changes. Once again, these guys have nothing to do. I'd much rather them do media and do productive things than getting in trouble or doing some other crazy stuff and a day off where they're not traveling and they're just kind of hanging around in Charlotte. Trust me, Charlotte's a weird place. I've been there a few times. It is a weird place. Space Cadet saying, agreed, infamous. That interview really made it seem like he might resign. Lex might be right. Yeah, well, this is the thing. What Fred said that was the most important thing that he said in that interview is that he owes everything to the Raptors. He realizes this, that out of all 30 of the NBA teams, we were the ones who bet on him to bet on himself to do what he did. And in some ways, he's in debt. He's in gratitude to us, to our team, because we were the ones who made the legend Fred VanVleet happen. And he really doesn't take that lightly. In fact, you can tell Fred is a super loyal person in all kinds of ways to the people that he loves in his life. And that is a big part of it. And he's also talked about how he's best friends with Masai, and that him and Masai call each other all the time, and they have an open line of communication that if there's ever any kind of confusion or kind of weirdness going on, they can talk directly to each other and clear the air very quickly. And that goes both ways. If Fred feels like something's weird with the team or something's going on, he can call Masai, and Masai will talk to him and be honest. And that goes the other way too. If Masai feels like Fred said something weird or something weird's going on, he will call him. And the lines of communication with him and Masai Ujiri were illuminated that they're actually super, super good. So that, yeah, I think he is going to re-sign with us. I've always thought he was going to re-sign with us. I never thought he was going anywhere else. It's just everybody else wants him to go somewhere else. They're pushing so hard for it, but I don't see it. In fact, some of the rumors now are saying that Nick's going to leave and take Fred with him. I don't think that's likely. I think that Fred's more with Masai than he is with Nick. If he had to pick choosing between Nick or Masai, he's going to pick Masai, y'all. Seriously. So, yeah, I was really happy about that interview, Space Cadet. It was a good interview, and a lot of good things were said in it. Jimmy's saying, I'm just pissed about this season. We had every reason to be better than last year. It almost seems no one bought in. Not sure if people have individual motives or what, but it's been weird vibes. Well, we got to take each part of the season and compartmentalize it. Like, let's think about the vibes at Rico Hines runs. Let's think about the vibes in training camp. Let's think about the vibes in Edmonton for the first preseason game. Let's think about the vibes for the first month of the season. Let's think about the vibes after Pascal did the splits in Dallas. That's what I'm saying. That splits by Dallas by Pascal derailed our whole season. We had very good vibes and very good connectivity and everything going right. And then little things, little by little, happen in a string of events that kind of made it more difficult and depressing and hard. You have a 6-game losing streak all of a sudden, and it's hard to keep your head up, and things get worn down. Well, we've had a very difficult year, and it's been hard to keep things up. As Fred put it in the interview with Taylor, this season has had a little bit of everything. It's had jubilation, it's had achievement, it's had success, it's had fun, it's had a good time, and then it's also had the exact opposite. Very depressing times, very hard times, very difficult times, injuries, bad refereeing, all kinds of different things have happened this season. He said you got basically the whole gamut of good and bad in this season for the Raptors this year. And, that's what it is. But it's funny because Fred is very positive and upbeat about it all. He's like, he doesn't let these bad parts of this season weigh him down. In fact, he thinks about all the good stuff that's happened this year, and he stays focused and he stays positive. And I really love that about him. In some ways, our team is not special in this way. You guys really got to understand the new parity in this league has affected a lot of teams, and they are feeling the same exact way we're feeling right now. How do you think Dallas fan feels right now? How do you think Golden State fan has felt most of the season being mid? There's so many teams that are mid this year, and so many teams that underperformed considering what they were expected to do after the offseason last year. Seriously, we are not a special case. We should not be feeling like, we're like the ultimate failure of everybody in the league, because there's so many other teams that are exactly what we are. Chicago, Miami, Atlanta. These teams are all right around us in the standings, and they have had just as disappointing seasons as we have. So let's not act like we're special case or that this is some sort of weird thing that just happened to us. The new NBA is having an effect of parity and struggles for everybody across the league unless you're a really shitty team at the bottom, you're really, really struggling, or you are one of the fortunate few that were able to have a very nice winning season this year. And that's the thing. So let's not get too upset with this year. Let's be proud that we weathered the storm, that we had good achievements, that we had bright spots, and that we've done well in a lot of different ways when things could have really fallen apart. Once again, I'll say the Tampa season was a success because we didn't destroy our franchise. We didn't have things happen that year that had ramifications for years to come because we fell further into the abyss of bad stuff from that season. Well, this season's very much the same. We had all kinds of pitfalls and things we could have fallen into to destroy our team, and we've stayed strong through it for the most part. Maybe some people haven't totally stayed strong, and they will be casualties of the season. But for the most part, we kept things going all right. We kept the leaks clogged up, and we kept the boat sailing. And that's an accomplishment in some ways. Seriously, that's a huge accomplishment. Jimmy's saying, I'm just pissed about this. Okay, yeah, I just read that one. Nako's saying, I think Masai and Bobby and Nick have had talks about next season. Feels like Nick is letting those conversations bleed into the media. The nurse is going to volunteer what might happen, should answer the question. You know, it backfired. Like, seriously, this you can't negotiate with Masai this way. Like, all you did was fuck up, Nick, with what you did. It may have been a media strategy, like by Klutch, to like show the intention that you could leave or walk, and then it needs to scare Masai and like get him all in a buzz and be like, oh, we need to retain Nick no matter what. He has the leverage now because he's showing that he could leave, and we're scared of that. Well, you know what Nick found out? We're not scared of him leaving. So it kind of really backfired on him. I don't think the fans are scared of him leaving. I don't think the players are scared of him leaving. And I don't think the management is scared of him leaving. So in some ways, Klutch telling him to do what he did last week actually was a big fail. Because in some ways, you know what? It's like, you know what? You want to do that? You go ahead. We don't give a shit. You fucking want to walk away? You want to act like this and flaky like this right at the end of the season? Okay, you go ahead. In some ways, we're like, yeah, whatever, dude. Don't try and threaten us. You can't threaten us. And that's kind of what this is at this point. Is don't threaten us with leaving. We're Masai Ujiri and the Raptors. We don't give a shit. We will fucking figure it out. I think that's actually what happened. And that Nick's upset partly now because it didn't work. It's not having the intended effect that he wanted it to have. In fact, it made things worse for him. In fact, it may have devalued him, and it may make him like not even have a chance to come back and be on this team. But as a coach, it may not even be up to him at this point. Masai may be like, you know what, Nick, we want to go in a different direction. I'm sorry that this has just been a real mess up at the end of the season. You shouldn't have done that in that interview. And we value you, but we don't want you doing things like that. It could be all kinds of things. Van Hoot saying these press conference tours, especially by Nurse, got to stop. Dude needs to get back to work. Stop with the commercials and TV shows. You know, listen, I don't mind him doing the TV shows and commercials. Most of that stuff's filmed in the off season. You know, I don't mind him getting on stage with the new power generation or the Arkells and playing music. I don't mind him reading books and playing his piano. I do mind when he gets into that interview and he starts getting all selfish and start talking about his own stuff instead of talking about the team. And that's why whenever we talk to Nick Nurse in the press conference for the rest of the season, I don't want to hear jack shit about his motives or what he wants. We already know where you're at, Nick. You've let us know now. We want to know what's going on with the team and how you're going to make them win and how you're going to go into agony because you're going to push them as far into the postseason as you possibly can. In fact, I want to see y'all playing in May. I want to see y'all playing in May because then I'll know Nick was really trying hard. But in some ways, the fact that you're saying, I want to go and take some weeks off before the playing even starts, it's like, well, if you lose and you go get to take weeks off right away, yeah, we'll know that you were motivated to take weeks off. And that's why I don't like what you did last Friday, Nick, is because you need weeks off. Well, if we go in the early exit, I'm going to be like, yeah, Nick needed his weeks off. And there you go. That's why it happened. You know, this season's a long haul. This is a year commitment, just like Fred said in his interview with Taylor, that, you know, this is a year-long project. And why would the captain or the coach of the project in the last week of the project say, yeah, you put so much work into it all season, went through so much bullshit up and down, And now you're going to fucking throw your hands up and do this, Nick. That's what I'm saying. It's messed up. And Van Hoot's right. Stop with all the extra stuff. Get focused and get this team winning. That's what we want. We just want to keep winning. Mike's saying we need to stop reading into every little thing and trying to see the negative. Spicy said the same stuff about Fred. And when roster questions come up, Pope, it's growing pains exposed harder by injury. All right. Pope, what? Oh, you're talking about, I don't know. You're talking to Seymour? Like, once again, oh, you're talking to Jimmy. I don't know, man. Once again, Mike, don't like do too much back and forth. Just make your points and make your arguments. If you do have a difference of opinion with people. All right, Mike. I'm not even sure what to do with this. I'm reading into it because that's what I do, man. I read body language. I read between the lines. I read what they mean and not necessarily what they say. That is what I'm trained to do. And that is part of one of the biggest strengths that I use on this channel for making good content is that I read between the bullshit. I listen to them. I look at their face. I look at the way that their expression is. So in some ways, I'm trained to do this, Mike. And yeah, it's part of my channel, just like the ref report. So yeah, don't tell me to not read into every little thing because that's what I do. And I do it with the players and the coaches when they have interviews. That's my bread and butter in some ways. So I am going to be reading them. And I'm telling you, I read tells just like a poker tell. And I read tells. And that's why I'm, in some ways. So I don't think that Siakam has a vested interest in whether Nick's the coach or not. Let's just put it that way. That's the only thing I read with him. It's a very short interview with him. But asking him directly how he feels about Coach Nurse, yeah, he could have been like, if he really loved Nick, he would be like, I love Coach Nurse and I want him to coach our team. But he didn't say that. He did not say that, Mike. And a lot of people that they really love their coach and really are connected to him, they will say that kind of thing. Infamous is saying, I like Fred's attitude. He's basically saying it's like going into a doctor's office and telling a doctor how to do their job. Yeah, he's exactly right, though. That's the thing. I think because basketball is like a sport you play as a kid, everybody just magically thinks, oh, I'm an expert because I did basketball in middle school or I played in high school or, whatever level you got up to. You think you can apply your basic knowledge of basketball or whatever level you played at, and you can apply it to the NBA? No, no, you can't. It's kind of like doing dinosaurs in science class. You guys are in dinosaurs in kindergarten, and they're doing like graduate level physics in university. That's what it really is like. Like you guys we're learning the dinosaurs' names: Ankylosaurus, Triceratops. Yeah, that's what we do. Baby basketball knowledge. And these motherfuckers are doctorates like Stephen Hawking of quantum physics and shit like that. That's the difference between what these guys know about basketball and what a person like me or most of us know. Because they're in the nuts and bolts. They're in the everyday. They're in the like very specifics. They're talking about where their foot is pointing when they do a footwork. They're talking about like, oh, get your elbow at this angle when you do this, or when you turn your body, don't do this. They get really into the nuts and bolts and the real finer details. And then you get into whole team concepts and team schemes and the switching and all that kind of stuff. It can get very, very complicated. And for the average person, you could be like, oh my God, I didn't realize that it is this in depth, how much these NBA guys learn and do and what they're doing on the court. So yeah, I love that. I love that statement too. Infamous. I think it's funny. It's like, yeah, you can go to the doctor and tell them about how to do their job. Yeah. So don't be telling Fred how to do his job, basically, is what he's saying. Blackhawk saying, don't agree with Fred. Shoot with the Fred shoot more stance. It's about ball movement for breaking down defenses and mixing it up, even out missed shots. Fred will shoot regardless. Just be cunning about it. When I said that to him, that was because it was the summer of 2018, before we had our championship year. And he had a slump at the end of the last season, and he had been missing a lot. And I basically encouraged him and said, shooters got to shoot. You're going to have to just keep shooting because I know you're going to eventually start making them. And that was my advice for him at that time. I was like, just keep shooting them. Us, the real fans, we believe in you, and we want you to shoot the ball, Fred. And then the other thing I said to him was, I'm really happy you got your contract this summer and that you re-signed with the Raptors. And he said, thank you, man. This is where I want to be. I've always just wanted to be here. He told me that himself personally, that he loves being in Toronto. and that he wants to be here, guys. So don't expect this dude to leave. In fact, he's talking in that interview with Taylor Rooks about getting schools for his kids and figuring out their lives now that Sana is 5. She's going to have to start going to school. Well, do you think Fred wants to uproot all them this summer and take them somewhere else? Well, it may be the time to do it before, or he's going to stay here and put them in school here in Toronto. So, there's a lot more to this than just like thinking about the money, thinking about the playing time, thinking about what's the situation. You got to think about your family too. And his children are getting to school age, and he wants to figure out the best plan for their future as far as putting them in the best schools. And well, he wants to figure that shit out. And I'm sure it's much nicer to keep a young family where they're already at and they're comfortable and in their house here in Toronto than moving them to another city all of a sudden this summer and going somewhere else. So yeah, Fred haters. Yeah, hold your breath. That interview yesterday made it seem like he's staying. And I'm totally endorsing him with it. I am totally with it. Now, as far as like, all right, at this point, Blackhawk, obviously we want him to be more of a point guard and be more balanced with the passing and the shooting. But that I was just talking about at that point. And I'm glad I told him to keep shooting because in the same way in 2019 playoffs, he had to keep shooting then. And finally it came around after Fred Jr. was born. He started hitting the shot. So it's like that is good advice. Shooters got to shoot. He's got to keep shooting. And as Jakob Poeltl explained in the post-game interview after the Sunday's game, this is why Fred needs to shoot. This is why he needs to keep shooting. He did such a good job explaining it, and they put it all over the place. Fred Propaganda was like, thank you, Jakob, for giving me Fred Propaganda to post on my Twitter. And he did. He posted it all over the place. Smooth saying, I've been critical of Fred this whole year, but I realized the makeup of the team dictates the shots that he takes, perhaps a tweak here and there, and he becomes a more traditional one. Yeah. And he's moving in towards that direction. If you think about it, Smooth, from the beginning of the season, he's moved more and more towards being a traditional one and being more of a point guard. As Jakob said, there's a lot of shots that Fred takes just because he has to, and it's the end of the shot clock, and we need somebody to shoot it, and he just has to make a shot and create right at the end of the shot clock. The defense plays really sound against us for most of the 24-second shot clock, and now Fred's scrambling to manufacture a shot right at the end. And sometimes that's why he misses shots, because he can't take high percentage shots at the end of the shot clock if he's guarded really like tough. And it's like he has to get one off and get something up there. So Jimmy's saying, I'm just sick of seeing our fan base with pitchforks crapping on our players, coaches, etc. That energy is not needed. Totally with you, Jimmy. And seriously, you know what? This summer, we're going to start trying to figure this out, that we're really going to walk the walk and try and come from a positive mindset in all kinds of different ways. I feel like this year was so tumultuous and difficult that maybe I've been too negative at times this year. And I'm going to rededicate myself to having positive energy and bringing it really positively here today on the days that I do my stream. So yeah, I'm with you on this. I think that this is one of the best ways to fight the fight, is to stay positive and ignore the negative and just keep shining a positive light in the middle of Raptors Nation here on this channel. I think that some of the things that Leslie and other people said yesterday really struck me hard and made me think about this a lot last night. And I want to make sure that this channel is something different than most Raptors content on YouTube. And this is the best way for me to do it. Now, it's important for us to be able to be critical, but we need to stay positive. And that's an important thing. Let's see, G saying, Pope, they are bullies. It's actually very disappointing that we have this part of our fan base not only harassing players, they're harassing fans now too, complimenting players, in particular, Fred. Listen, whatever. These people are toxic. These people are bad. In fact, I went and looked. There's something they're posting on Jakob Poeltl's page on his Instagram. Somebody put this on blast. Jakob does not use his Instagram. He doesn't barely post anything. In fact, the last thing he posted is a celebration of Greg Popovich getting accomplishment while he was still on the Spurs. Well, a lot of people are betting on Jakob, just like they were betting on Chris. And if you go to Jakob's Instagram and you read all the comments, they're current. The post is from like months ago. It's an old ass post, but they don't have any way of getting in contact with Jakob. So they're posting comments on his page about how he lost them money, how he didn't get enough rebounds, and how he sucks because they lost money and shit like that. It is really bad and really out of hand. If I was a player, I would really, really batten down the hatches and really like focus on like limiting your social media in the right ways. You should not let people have access to direct message you. You should not have access for a common person to just comment on your posts, because they are going to come and they're going to be negative and they're going to say such ugly, fucked up things. You add this element of money and betting, and now it's just becoming a cesspool of toxicity. Yeah, you get what you get. And the person who posted this was talking about, well, this is like, this is kind of a fucked up thing because Rogers and Bell are in cahoots with Bet Rivers and other betting sites, and they're actually partners. And in some ways, Rogers and Bell are the owners of the Raptors. So in some ways, the companies that Rogers and Bell are in cahoots with the betting sites that are deriving all the toxicity and the attacks on the players, the employees of MLSE. So in some ways, there may be a lawsuit somewhere in there that really an astute lawyer could make an argument about for the clients, like Jakob Pertl, about how this whole thing runs into itself and causes this phenomena, that there may be some rights that are infringed on by the employer on the employee because of this partnership between Rogers and Bell and Bet Rivers. So that's a very interesting aspect to me. I don't know, lawyers out there, you want to get some sort of crazy ass case, you could be a big part of ruining this whole betting thing that's going on with the NBA at this point. That there may be like some sort of case you can make for the players in this situation that can end this. So they also are allowing in the players in the new CBA to endorse the betting sites. They can't gamble themselves. Legally, they cannot be gamble or do anything like that. The referees and the players are not allowed to. But apparently they can be spokespeople for those companies and get hired as spokespeople and stand in front and say Bet Rivers and I'm Pascal Siakam, Bet Rivers, come and bet on the games and stuff like that. That's fucked up to me, seriously. And if I see any players doing betting commercials, I'm gonna be like, you fucking sellout, you toxic sellout. So any of you players that are gonna cross that line and take that advertisement money to represent any of the betting companies, yeah, I'm gonna be judging you. I'm gonna be judging you as a sellout for the detriment of the rest of your brotherhood and people that you play with. That's what I'm gonna be looking at you at. Yeah, yeah. Logical saying, Oren, stand up. That's right, Oren Weisfeld. You go. You're the number one best Raptors reporter out there today because you're a real one. You have a heart, and we love you, Oren. You keep going. Trevor's saying, good morning. We got this one tonight. Let's go, Raptors, and put the smack down on them like WWE. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do a rock bottom to their ass. Yeah. I'm all about that. All right, let's do the ref report right now, guys. This is interesting, guys. We have a really shitty ref crew. We have maybe one of the worst ref crews we've had all season. We have 3 Raptor hater refs that are going to be refereeing us tonight. Now, the situation is it's Charlotte, y'all. It's Charlotte. We've seen the talent they have. But this is going to be a really weird test because the referees are definitely against us tonight. And I don't know what kind of funny shit they might try and do, but we need to overwhelm the Hornets and beat them no matter what with our better talent and our better players, our better coach, our better all-around franchise, because they got a ref hit job walking in. Like, this is maybe the worst ref crew I've seen this entire year. All 3 refs suck for the Raptors today, and they're going to be funny. Our crew chief is Ed Malloy. Now, this is the thing. I'd much rather have Ed Malloy today than in Boston tomorrow or on Friday. It's not likely Ed Malloy will referee us again for the rest of the season. So I'm very happy to see Ed Malloy tonight. It's much better to see Ed Malloy tonight than to see him tomorrow night. Like I said, if he's in Boston, that's really bad. You don't want Ed Malloy refereeing you against Boston in Boston. Just trust me on that. I've seen enough evidence to know that's not good. So getting Ed Malloy tonight in Charlotte is a way, way better place to get him. And I better not see him again for the rest of the season. I'm going to say that right now, NBA. We don't want no more Ed Malloy after this. He is from Media, Pennsylvania. He now lives in Aston, Pennsylvania. He's in his 22nd season. His favorite TV show is Jeopardy. He likes the movie Braveheart. His favorite musician is It's a Beautiful Day. Don't let it get away with or without you. He loves that U2. His favorite book is Tom Clancy books. He likes Google Maps and Sorrento, Italy, and he wants to eat the pasta. He wants the pasta. We know Ed Malloy's a fuck, and he's a ref hit job artist. He could be a crooked ref. He could be one of those guys gambling on games. He is Philadelphia ref mafia. We win. He's the best ref for us today. This is how fucked up our game is today, y'all. Ed Malloy is our best ref today out of the three refs. We win 45% of the time. We did win the last game that Ed Malloy refereed for us. So, hey, that was good. The Hornets win 32% of the time. So the split is 45-32 for the Raptors with Ed Malloy. But once again, we only win 45% of the games when he's around. And we know Ed Malloy. We know how shitty Ed Malloy can be for a ref. But, hey, I'd rather have him in Charlotte tonight than in Boston tomorrow or Friday. And this is good. This is actually good that we're getting Ed tonight and not in one of these other games. Holy crap. The second ref is the Ukrainian ref, Marat Kogut. Yes, we hate Marat Kogut. He is really bad. I shouldn't say the word hate. We don't like Marat Kogut because he's very bad to us. We have been historically had him really give us bad calls and not favor us in any kind of way. He is in his 15th season out of Kyiv. He now resides in Boca Raton. He went to high school in New York and Brooklyn. But Marat, he likes that show Family Guy. He likes that DiCaprio movie, Catch Me If You Can. His favorite musician is We Didn't Start the Fire. It's been always burning since the world's been turning. He loves Billy Joel. His favorite book is Tuesdays with Maury. His favorite app is Amazon. He most like to visit Japan. He is the magician, y'all. He practices magic. He knows how to do magic tricks. And his favorite meal is sushi. Now, as I said, Marat is horrible for us. We win 37% of our games. He has the worst winning percentage out of the three refs for us today. And he actually favors the Hornets. They win 42%. We lost the last game that Marat was present at. So it's 37-42 for the Hornets and Marat Kogut. Yeah, not a good ref. One of our worst refs in the league. And the third ref is a ref we have not seen this season until today. 8th season in the league, CJ Washington. He's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He now lives in Houston. His favorite TV show is Godfather of Harlem. His favorite movie is that one with Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy called Life. His favorite musician is Anthony Hamilton. His favorite book is Rise of the King. He most like to visit Italy, and his bucket list is to attend a football game at the Notre Dame Stadium, and his favorite meal is lasagna. CJ Washington previously worked in the Houston area as a licensed residential building inspector. He's also worked as a residential real estate appraiser in Louisiana. So that's some interesting information about CJ. CJ has not been good to us historically. Like I said, we win 38% of our games when he's around. And meanwhile, the Hornets win 47% of their games. Like I said, we did not have a game with him ref yet until today. So 38-47, the split for the Hornets. So the two under refs favor the Hornets statistically, and Ed Malloy is the only ref that favors us, and he's a crew chief. There you go. That's what I have to say. That's a horrible ref crew. But can we overtake and over-talent the Charlotte Hornets, depleted with hardly any players, go overtake the referee hit job ref crew that's coming in there tonight? Can we be such badasses that we can rise to the occasion and make the sweep of the Charlotte Hornets for the season, get them both games in a row here? It's so tough to win 2 games in a row on these 2-game series. Can we do that again on this one? Can we do it? Raptors, are you up for the challenge of this? All stacked against you. In some ways, it's easier than you think. In some ways, it may be harder than you think. But I believe in y'all. I think you can go against these odds stacked against you. You better damn for sure beat Kai Jones and Svi Mahalik today. Come on, Raptors. Seriously, you better fucking win this game, even if everything is stacked against you today. Even if they tell you at the game, Ed Malloy says, there's a new rule, Raptors, because they have so many players hurt, you can only play 4 players on the court while they get 5. Whatever the standings or whatever settings they have going for us tonight against us, we need to overcome it. I don't care. We need 40 wins by the end of tonight. And if we don't have 40 wins by the end of tonight, I'll be really pissed off, because this is an easy Charlotte team. In some ways, Nick Nurse will say none of these games are easy. None of these teams are easy. But don't kid yourself. This is the Charlotte Hornets that are half-assed. This is like the D list Charlotte Hornets. This isn't even like their top 6, 7 players playing in the game, Charlotte Hornets. And that's why we need to really very much kick their butt today. Put that smack down on them, just like Trevor's saying. We got to put that smack down on them. Yes, we do. Isaac saying KG was interviewed on a podcast and he made the comment his 2 picks for Defensive Player of the Year also led the league in technical fouls. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Dylan Brooks, said it in context of balancing modern refs. You know, I don't know. I mean, the Defensive Player of the Year argument is kind of annoying me because I know that OG's not getting mentioned enough, and I'm really kind of like not paying attention. Yeah, I saw that Kevin Garnett did an interview recently and was talking about this stuff. Yeah, whatever. I'm not very interested in what Garnett says. In all due respect, Isaac. Jimmy's saying, and with Nick in development, do we not have a large coaching staff? Where is the scrutiny for them? Guarantee Nick has other priorities than that stuff. The other coaches need some smoke also. Yeah. And I was kind of like trying to suss this out during the season. Like, is there some coaches underneath Nick that aren't doing enough to help? Is there some problems like that? And one of the people that I was starting to point a finger at because of the offense is Trevor Gleason. Is that like in some ways, Trevor Gleason's flex offense has not really worked completely. In some ways, our offenses look so bad in the last 2 years. Can we look and see who's been kind of in charge of that kind of aspect for us? I know that they switch guys around and they do different departments every couple weeks, but in some ways, who's the architect for what our offense is and why it's happening the way it is? That in some ways, they may be somebody who needs to be blamed for our struggles this season. I can totally get behind that, Jimmy, for sure. Fun guy saying, what the fuck, man? Why I can't find the Nick Nurse media when he snaps? Like, what the fuck? Fun guy. It's real easy. Yesterday, it's a picture of Koloko, and Koloko does the first interview, and he's fine. He's really like normal and just talking. Like, that's funny. Koloko said basically, I got to work on my corner threes, and I'm really working on my little push shots. The one like he made against Charlotte on Sunday, that little baseline shot where he just put it up in a little short 10-footer. So he was talking about practicing those kind of things in his interview. You find that practice interview with Koloko's face on it. The Nick Nurse interview is on after it. And it's much longer than the Koloko one. The Koloko one's like maybe 2 minutes. The Nick Nurse one's like 5 minutes. And that will be the one where you could find him being a little weird yesterday. Not totally dialed in, if you ask me. Smooth saying, Doug Smith told me that was talking shit when I said that Goran Dragic hates Toronto on Twitter. I will always remember that. That man is a character. You said that Doug Smith told you that that was talking shit when I said that Goran Dragic hates Toronto on Twitter. Doug Smith, whatever, man. I'm so sick of that guy in some ways. I really am. Like, in some ways, listen, he was at the center of Vince Carter debacle with him leaving at that time. You guys don't remember exactly how much Doug Smith had to do with everything falling apart with Vince Carter, that he was the messenger. He was the one who put all this shit out about Vince at the end that made it all difficult and tough. And he was part of the big problems with what happened with the Vince Carter exit and the problems with the trade and everything that happened there. There is a part in that Doug Smith had in that. Well, now he has a part in Nick Nurse for this last week. And that's what I'm saying. I don't like the dude. He's not good for our team in some ways. He is a journalist. And in some ways, he's a tabloid journalist. He's somebody who just wants controversy, or he likes to just really exploit being an insider, having insider details, and then kind of superfluously letting them out like he did last week, even if they're true to an extent. But the way he goes about it is just really fucked up. And once again, his credibility is not totally good at this point because he's made bullshit stories up too in the last year, where it's like, I don't totally believe him. That's why when he came out with his story last week, I was like, I don't believe it until I see it from the horse's mouth. And then we did see it from the horse's mouth. And that's why I don't really trust him anymore. Like, anything he says or writes about, I don't believe, even if he's an insider, even if he's talking to people, because I don't trust his motives. And in some ways, he's been very destructive for the Toronto Raptors at times in its history. And fuck you, Doug Smith. How about that? Yeah. Mike is saying losing strains a lot of relationships. Nick's been through a lot this year with having to change the whole plan on the fly and things not working right away. Nick is a pro and understands his job, in my opinion. I think so. I hope so too. But Yeah, still, there's some certain things that are happening recently that are not Nick Nurse like and more Klutch like. And I don't like that, Mike. That's the stuff I don't like. Of course, this is a difficult year. The losing is tough. People want to point fingers. It's hard not to turn on each other, and hopefully you don't for the most part. I don't know. There's some weird shit going on with our team. The vibes are weird. There needs to be changes this summer just to get more healthy vibes around the team. Obviously, there's something not right. And maybe there's just a couple of people that are not right. And hopefully, Bobby and Messiah are astute enough to realize who those people are and we move on from them somehow, some way. We'll have to see how it works. MSJ saying, don't worry over Nick. The players win games, not the coaches. At the NBA level, they can only mess things up out of mismanagement. But I think we have a terrific starting five. Raps are good going forward. You go, MSJ. I love that positivity. And that's what I'm saying. In some ways, he's right. This is a players' league. The college is more a coaches' league, and the NBA is a players' league. And in some ways, the players do determine a lot more than the coach does in some ways. But you do need a good coach and a good leader, and he can definitely help you get there in better ways, but they can also screw you up too. I think MSJ's got a really good comment here. And that's a good way to keep perspective on this. And what we value and what's most important about all this, obviously, it's people like Scotty and OG and Fred and Jakob and Pascal. Those are the people that we value. Fiercely saying, morning, fam. Looking forward to later. Let's win the series versus the Hornets. As for Nick Nurse, I leave it in the hands of the front office to make the right decision. I'd rather focus on the team and the players and their spirit and positivity. You go, Fiercely Salsera. I love that. I love that. Let's stay focused on what matters. The eyes on the prize, the team playing well, the postseason, getting things going, winning play-in game, and getting a playoff series. That's what we want to focus on next, and that's what's most important. And maybe we convert Jeffrey Dowtin Jr. in the next day or so, too. That'd be good. Monique saying, good morning, everyone, and happy game day. Play like last game versus the Hornets and an easy W. Lots of interviews are out with Fred and Pascal lately. Yeah. Yeah. Some people are being critical of Fred of being on a press tour all of a sudden right now. I love it. You go ahead, Fred. People want to hear from him. People in the States want to hear from him. He's become an interesting person in the NBA because of his press conference against the refs earlier this season. And he's just an interesting interview. He's no bullshit. And in some ways, he's a very good person for people to look up to. That once again, this like people have said, like, look, you want to be like somebody in this league, be like Fred. Go look at him and see the way he carries himself as a pro, as a mature adult man, and somebody how he lives his life. And that is a good template for young people that want to aspire to be in the NBA. You want to be in the NBA? Go be like Fred, is what they're saying. Yeah. Infamous is saying it's sad that the only time the major media want to talk to us is when there's controversy or drama with the team. In some ways, I don't think that's totally true. I think in some ways things are gotten better. Like I said, they talked to Siakam's been on ESPN a few times this year. That they've had him interviewed by Malika Andrews a few times this year. Like this wasn't the first little ESPN interview that Pascal's done this season. He got to do it after he won. He scored 50 in Madison Square Garden also. So I don't know if that's totally true. I think that they've celebrated some of our achievements also. In fact, the interviews for Fred yesterday, in some ways, were very oriented around his 20 and 20 game on Sunday. That they did talk about that on both contents. And that's part of the reason why they're talking to him is celebrating that achievement from Sunday. So I don't know if I'm as cynical as you on this, as far as when they give us attention. I think that they give us attention when good things happen too. Line Hunter saying, unfortunately, all those two interviews for Fred did was feed the haters with more fuel, even if everything he said was accurate and insightful. Well, once again, we all listen and hear and perceive through the prism of our own brains and what we want to hear and see. And there's, it's real easy because Fred has a certain confidence that he carries himself. That rubs people the wrong way, and they'll read everything the wrong way. It really is a weird thing where you can hear the one person say something and two different people hear totally different messages. And some of it has to do with perception and just slant or bias. And that's really a big part of it. I don't care. Like, look, I love that he said he doesn't give a shit about what any of us say. And I also love that he's kind of like answering a lot of the things like the controversy and different things that people have said about him this season. That is really awesome. And I ballsy, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Let the haters hate. They're going to hate no matter what. It's not like he's done everything correctly at different times during the season, and they've still found a reason to hate him. I mean, stat padding. That's what they're calling what Sunday happened. So they're gonna hate him regardless. It doesn't matter. It's just we gotta like ignore them. And the players need to put up walls and not listen to them. And once again, don't think that this is just exclusive to Raptors Nation. This is happening in every single sports nation. This is a phenomenon around the NBA at this point. That the players are just under weird scrutiny with the betting, and they're also under weird scrutiny with the access in social media, and that it's just an evolving world and changing. Is cool, is interesting. Fred brought up the first time he ever read a comment, a negative comment online when he was like 14 years old, guys. So this is like a long, long time ago, and before the internet even blew up in the way it is with this interconnectivity at this point. He read it on a message board in a place somewhere, and he's only 14. And somebody basically said, this guy's too small, he's too short, he'll never amount to anything in his whole entire career. And Fred read it as a 14-year-old kid. And that in some ways that would be deflating to some people. In some ways that may be like, fuck, man, I'm only a kid, and this person's already sewering me like this. What did he do? He wanted to prove them wrong. In fact, this showed a pattern of him like taking the fuel of the haters and turning it into him achieving. And that he's done that ever since. That when people do like what they're doing with the hate, he actually turns that into motivation. And that he makes it very much, I want to show you you're wrong kind of attitude kind of thing. And I love that about him. So in some ways, the hate actually feeds him. It actually feeds him to do better and better and better. And that is such a positive way to turn hate into something good. And I love Fred for that. I really do. Tom's here. Good to see Tom Duke on the West Coast. Hold it down. So much noise this year. Blame Nick for sure for everything. See, Tom's all about scapegoating Nick. I'm okay with that too. But first, let's win some games and turn the season into a success as a whole. Does the team organize those interviews, or is it Klutch? I think that basically this is what it was. CJ Miles said, I'll ask my friend Fred if he'll be on the show with us, Amit. Okay. He said he'll do it. All right. Taylor Rooks was in Charlotte, just happened to be there. And she had intended to interview Fred at some point recently. She said she actually wanted to interview him in Toronto, but she was glad to catch up with him in Charlotte and do it there instead. It was just something she was seeking him out. It's not like he went and asked them, I don't think. I think that she saw the opportunity and he was available, and she went and got him. And then the ESPN people, of course, they're going to bring in Pascal because I don't know. I don't think that it's anybody like Klutch or anybody who's organizing this stuff. I think it's just very organic that it comes about and it happens this way. People have a period of time off on a day in between two games with no travel. Well, they have a little bit more free time around practice and their other activities. They can fill it with productive things. And these interview things are productive to me. They're more content. They get more out in the air. They give people more of an understanding of where these guys are with their heads. And I have no problem with any of it. Smooth saying the weird thing about the Smith comment to be on Twitter was that I was not being disrespectful to him as a reporter. Yeah, I don't know. He's a weird guy, Smooth. He's just a weird guy. In some ways, he doesn't understand social media and Twitter, and because he didn't understand he said a certain saying, and in some ways he's old. The saying doesn't mean the same thing anymore, and he confused a lot of people on a comment that he made once, and then he I forget what it was. He's like, oh, I'm over it. He said something like I'm over it or something like that. And everybody read it into him being over like Scotty Barnes being upset at the end of the Denver game. And then he had to clarify. So there's definitely a disconnect of him knowing vernacular or understanding the sayings of young people, and then him stepping into it and saying like a saying and him thinking it means something else because it's like, wait, it meant old timer. Then now it means something totally different. Yeah, there's a lot of misconstrued comments on Twitter because he's just stupid and he's old and he's out of touch. And he doesn't understand that some of the things he says on Twitter don't come off the way he thinks that they come off. Like maybe in print, he can write in the newspaper and he has a voice in there. But on Twitter, his voice is really weird as far as sometimes he's sarcastic, sometimes he's jokey, but then sometimes he's also got to be factual and give us real information for real. But we don't know where that line is blurred, Doug. And this is one of the things I've been asking of all y'all media personalities, whether it's Blake Murphy, Aaron Rose, Michael Grange, Doug Smith, to stop fucking thinking you're comedian people on Twitter, because in some ways you're a news resource, and Twitter's already all fucked up with like problems with blue checks and all kinds of things. Now we need you guys to be valid news sources on there. You're giving me information about roster moves with the Raptors. I want to know that you're honest and truthful. And you can't be like playing both sides where you're jokey and sarcastic and funny at one moment, because you sometimes think it's okay to be jokey and sarcastic about team related things, and then you step into it. That's what I'm saying. You really got to figure out your Twitter voice. And are you just the facts, ma'am, Joe Friday, or are you a comedian? Are you moonlighting as a comedian and you're trying to be funny on there? Y'all need to figure that out. If you're a journalist, you need to be a journalist. I'm sorry, because we depend on you for facts and information. And when you're trying to be a comedian also, there's all kinds of problems that spawns. Let's see. Logical saying the Hawks did sell their future for Murray too. Yeah, they're idiots. And listen, like they are where they are, and they're gonna be where they are, and their coaching situation's bad. And we have all kinds of questions about whether Trae Young is a coach killer or not. Like, how many coaches has Trae Young had, and has he gotten along with any of them? So is it going to work with Quinn Snyder? I have no idea if it'll work. We'll see. The honeymoon's okay right now, but we don't know where it's going to go down in the future. That's right, Mike. Mugarbe's here again. Good to see Mr. Lennon. Good morning, Raptor Freaks. I think everyone comes out with their own individual goals and not the team goals, and that was what hurt us. I know people keep trying to say this, Mugarbe, but I don't believe this. I really don't. I mean, I think that there's other weird stuff that's happening that makes us look like we're more disconnected than actually that's what it is. I think that in some ways we just haven't had, the right coaching to meld us together. At some point in the middle of the season, Nick said, y'all need to share the ball better. At the beginning of the season, it was very isolation and very selfish kind of play, but it was part of the game plan. It wasn't that they were doing it against the coach's wishes. That's the way that Nick set the game to be up. Well, he realized that like that's not good for the team. And in the middle of the season, he's encouraging more sharing the ball. And then we started to share the ball more, and our assist totals went up, and we had better offensive outcomes. So in some ways, I don't blame this necessarily. I just blame the coach's plan for not setting them up to play more connected together. I think that that's been more the problem, and he's gotten better as the season went on because he's seen that, yeah, I need to be this way. I can't just play Siakam in isolation on one side and have everybody get on the other side of the court and let him just try and score all our baskets. In some ways, that's the laziness of Nick's coaching in the beginning of the season, is just let these guys isolate and use their talent to overpower mismatches. Yeah, fuck that shit. Play two-man game, get passing between each other. And it got better and better in the middle of the season. And then when Jakob showed up, it really broke through. And we saw way more synergy in passing, and our assist totals have gone shooting up since Jakob Poeltl came back. So I don't even know if it's an individualistic like mindset with goals. I think it was more that our coaching was putting us in those kind of situations, and we changed it over the season into much better outcomes. Isaac saying Fred VanVleet is a top 50. He knows it, and they ain't him. Be a positive Raptors fan and call out media divisiveness. They will cut up anything to construct a story about anyone. Nick Nurse equals our coach. You go, Isaac Campbell. Yes. Stand up for Nick. Stand up for everybody. Seriously, I'm all about that. I'm disappointed in Nick this week, but also in some ways, if we can salvage things and make things all right, but I'm really worried that he's checked out and that he's already mentally moved on from us, and that it's not even our fault. Cool Cat saying, Alex, I didn't know about Taylor Rooks. Ahmet title seems to invite controversy. Pascal was the usual annual All-NBA rookie type interview. I just want the chatter about future status of anything to stall. Yeah, at least until we figure out what's happened with us in the postseason. Let's put it all on pause until we play in the postseason, until we do our things, that we take care of the current business. That's why I don't like what Nick did. And the stuff with Fred, as far as I can see, is not anything that will like contradict or go against what you're worried about. I know that it's controversial and like the comment, and that the thing he said with Ahmed Man is like kind of like shots fired on his haters. And I'm all about that. I love him being able to fight for himself and say this stuff. Like, once again, I mean, I'm not hurt by him saying that he doesn't give a shit what I think or tell him what to do on the basketball court. That is exactly how it should be. because honestly, like I said earlier, he is a physicist, a doctorate, and I'm playing with dinosaurs as far as knowledge of basketball. And that totally makes sense. Some people's ego may be hurt by what Fred said. It's like, what do you mean you are so arrogant that you're not going to care what we think, the fans? Yeah, because you're not qualified to tell me what you think. I can't get mad at that. That's just the honest truth. And then some people may get triggered by that and may hate him more because, oh, now he won't listen to us. He won't listen to me hate him. Oh my gosh. He's not listening to me hate him. That's because he disregards your opinion and he doesn't give a shit what you think. And I'm all for that. In some ways, it's good because him saying that may discourage people. Well, what's the point of me hating him like this? He's not going to hear me or care anyway. In some ways, he's basically telling everybody's hate for him is futile. He doesn't give a shit what you think. And that's that. I love that. I love that about him. And I know it's a little controversial, maybe a little like aggressive, but in some ways, he needs to meet their force with the same force. And in some ways, it's very effective what he's doing. Monique saying, when Pascal slipped on the floor and twisted his ankle, it turned the tide in Dallas. Yeah. Yeah. I could really say that was a catalyst for everything going downhill for our season. That we were starting to trend up. We were winning more games than we were losing. We'd gone through a very difficult first 2 weeks of the season with schedule. And we were doing okay. We were right in the ship. We weren't totally healthy. We had different issues. We're kind of getting into our groove for the season. And then Siakam going out in Dallas really hurt us. Really, really hurt us and put everything off track at that point. And then it was kind of like they were dominoes. They hit the next one, and there's this problem came from that problem to that problem to that problem. And we had to do a lot of putting out fires and adjustments and different kind of lineups because people were getting hurt, like Precious and OG. And, we were having people miss games, and it was always seemed like different key rotation people and starters were missing games for a huge chunk of the middle of the season. And it was really hard to get that continuity with everybody together. So there was a lot of different issues that derailed us this season. But Siakam is kind of the catalyst, him taking the splits in Dallas. Mike saying he was just too honest. And the question of where he's at after the season, he said he needs 2 weeks. Who doesn't? Saying 10 years was, I have done a great job, but he doesn't know how the front office feels. Mike, he wasn't just being too honest. He didn't answer the question. He went above and beyond. The question was, how's this season felt and how difficult has this season been? And basically, he could have just talked about the season. He didn't have to talk about the off season. And that's where he fucked up. He went too far ahead and he gave us a tell about where he's at with his head. And that's where he fucked up. The question was never about the off season. The question was never about what are you doing this summer. The question was never about, do you feel like you're going to be the coach of the Raptors next season? The question was, how difficult has this season been and how have you handled it? And he went straight to this season's been awful and I'm ready for weeks off. I'm ready for vacation. That's how he answered it. And that's different than like him being too honest with the question. That's him offering information that he didn't need to, that wasn't asked for. And that's a big part of the problem, Mike, is that he didn't even have to do that. He offered it all and just laid it out for that Philadelphia reporter, and that he didn't even need to do that. That's not what he asked him, and he didn't. That's not what he was fishing for, and that's the fucked up thing about what he did. Seriously. Smooth saying, I was really negative about this team this year, but I discovered your channel and the positivity regardless, and it really is refreshing for me. Awesome, Smooth. I love to hear that. That is exactly why I'm doing this. Because listen, you love the Raptors. I want you to find that love and not get jaded in the pessimism and all the noise around the team. There is so much noise out there that is just so unnecessarily negative and is not productive or conducive to helping our team get better. In fact, your fan nation and the way that the people believe about your team can really shape the reality of how things go with it. If people don't believe in the team, well, then it's tougher for them to go to the game and root for them and feel good about them. So in some ways, perception is reality in today's world. So in some ways, we need to build a positive perception so that people can get behind it and see the goals and the good things happening down the road. I really love your comment, and this is part of what fuels me to keep going. and I appreciate that. And we're so glad you've been here the last couple months. You've been fantastic addition to the comments, and I really do look forward to your presence here and everybody else that's been coming in recently, like Shere Khan and different other really new names that we haven't had around. And you guys have been awesome. Such a good new influx of new Raptor freaks with the crew, the originals, and people that have been around for a couple years already. We need the new blood all the time, and we love the new, refreshing new members that have new perspectives and come in with their point of view. We really do love it. Mike's saying, I believe it was calculated by Nick and his agent to push the agenda of the new contract this summer. And Adam Miller has done things like this, and it works with certain GMs. It doesn't work with Masai. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Like, this does not work. This didn't work. This didn't work. This is the thing. The Raptors are very genuine, truthful, honest, like integrity kind of organization. Any kind of underhanded tricks or any kind of shortcuts or any kind of weird ways of doing things, well, if it's not a genuine thing, it'll be sussed out and it'll not work. That's why it works so well with our team. That's why Fred and Masai have a phone call that they can call each other and talk no bullshit at any time, because it is what it is. It appears what it is, and there's no bullshit. And in some ways, that move that Adam Miller and Klutch told Nick to do on Friday was bullshit, and it was out of place. And in some ways, the way we do business and run our franchise, there's no place for that kind of stuff. And it doesn't work. It backfires because we very much have a certain way we do business. And that is not the way we do business. And they found out real quick. They found out real quick. Isaac's saying 100% logical. Two sides of a coin on a decision that's mutually decided on. You know, it'll be very interesting. I don't totally necessarily know if Nick's going to be gone. The odds are saying that he is going to now. The Vegas odds are all over it. And Aaron Rose is just broadcasting this. He's so gleeful about this Nick Nurse controversy that in some ways you're really starting to make me hate you, Aaron Rose. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Not like you, Aaron Rose. You're really starting to make me not like you because you're so gleeful with the tabloidism of the Nick Nurse story and you handling it and printing all these articles for your Raptors on SI kind of stuff. And you're putting out the articles about the odds of Nick Nurse in Vegas about whether he's going to be a coach of the Raptors next year or not. And some other content makers are already making like content talking about who could be the next coach. And they're going over lists of different people. Like it was Earl Watson this, or was Adrian Griffin this, you know. It's very interesting how people are reacting to this in different ways. Fiercely saying this is wild. Writing on a player's page and publicly displaying your perversion to betting. People have no boundaries nor judgment. Crazy. I know. Jakob's such a nice guy. Like, why would you go to his Instagram because you're that mad and write all this crazy shit? Like, you big, ugly stiff. Why couldn't you get 10 rebounds in this game? I needed it for $1,000. This is the kind of shit these degenerate gambling motherfuckers are writing on players' social medias and stuff. They have no connection to like understanding like what they're doing. And it's on public blast. We can all see you, you degenerates, you assholes. Please, if you're a player for the Raptors, batten down the hatches, put up walls social media wise, and cut out all the crap and the idiots and the suckers and the gamblers. Seriously, just do it, please, because I want y'all to sleep better at night, and you do not need to see this toxic, ugly bullshit that these people are putting out there. It's horrible. I mean, I don't get it. Like, what is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? You're so selfish and egotistical and wrapped up in your own bullshit that you're going to go and talk trash to people just because you didn't make money off of them. Like, the whole thing is insidiously gross, if you ask me. The gambling on people in the first place is gross to me. And then the fact that you have the audacity to come and attack them afterwards if they're not successful, that, yeah, you're just like 100 times grosser after that. Let's see. MSJ saying, I said Fred should have 12 field goal attempts and get 10 assists. As a coach, you have to insist that a player shoot a decent percentage to have that field goal attempts rise to the 18. As for these fans, they have no ideas, just hate. Sad. Yeah, I get this. And listen, if Fred doesn't have it on certain nights, they do go away from him. They don't go so heavy on him. If he really is cold, super cold in the first half, they will go look for other guys instead of him. It's just that he has to shoot some of them if he's on the court, just because of what Jakob said in the post game the other night. But they won't necessarily let him shoot a ton of them if he's not shooting well that night. They have to try him late, though. He's the kind of guy that can miss all of his threes for the whole entire game, and then he hits like 3 clutch threes in the last 5 minutes, and we win because of that. So in some ways, he gets a little bit more leash, even if he's cold late in the game, because we do need his daggers. As Nick said the other day, we don't have a lot of high percentage 3-point shooters on our team. It's really Gary, Fred, and OG at this point. And those guys are absolutely necessary to take a certain amount of threes just to keep up with the firepower of playing against other NBA teams that are very much utilizing the 3-point shot as a big part of their offense. That if we only have 3 really good 3-point shooters, we need those 3 guys to shoot and make them. Yeah, that's part of it. G saying, Smooth, you have been an awesome contributor to this channel. Awesome, G. I love seeing that. Leslie saying, good morning. I wish sports betting wasn't such a big part of the NBA. I do too. I hate this trend. And I think that this is only going to get worse. That there may be some really bad shit that happens, and they may have to amend this whole thing. Like, I really think it's so like soulless. I think it is just like a very toxic, and just like it shows a decay for the sport that this we're gotten to this point. Some people think it's great. It's fantastic. It makes the game more interesting. Fuck all that shit. I don't need that shit to make the game interesting for me. I don't have to have invested personal financial interest in the game to make me want to watch the Raptors. And you know, the people that you're attracting to watch the games with this way, maybe they're people we don't want fucking watching the games or being involved in the NBA. Maybe these aren't the people you want involved in your fan nation. Well, you just want money. That's what you want, Adam Silver. You don't want to worry about the mental health of your players like Andre Drummond and Jakob Poeltl and Chris Boucher. You don't care about your actual players, the people that are the people that make the money for your league. And you're going to turn around. At some point, this snake is going to eat its tail, and you're going to have some sort of fucked up controversy because of your gambling and all this bullshit. It's not going to end well. Trust me. There's something really bad's going to happen. Mike's saying, Isaac, exactly. And there's positioning with that decision that's happening at the moment. I'm sure Masai voiced to Nick and his agent that tactic isn't going to work. That Nick's agent let that plan go. I'm not worried. Yeah, it's not going to work. Obviously, Masai's a G. He knows what he's doing. He is all about. He knows what he's doing. In some ways, him being who he is by who he is a protection enough in these kind of situations. Yeah, I think you guys are pretty good on sussing this out between Mike and Isaac. G's saying, stay positive, but I speak for myself when I say you can go off on the refs, media, and players from other teams. It deserves. All right, G's saying, all right, he wants me to be positive and happy, but he doesn't mind me going off on our enemies. And all right, that is an aspect that's easy for me to do, and I'll continue to do that. All right, I like the feedback, guys. I always do. MSJ saying, that said, a point guard without a center is at a huge handicap, and you can't fault Fred for that. Now that Poeltl is here, no coincidence Fred's field goal percentage is up. And the fans who now hate Yak, please laugh out loud, get a clue. Yeah, they're ridiculous. I mean, these people don't know basketball. Honestly, they don't know basketball. These are highlight people. They don't know basketball. They don't understand the huge impact that his appearance and him coming back to our team has made and how much better we are because of it. We are so much better with Jakob Poeltl on our team. We have a rim protector that we've wanted for a couple of years. We have an excellent defensive center who's agitating anybody coming in the lane. He is physical with them. It's not easy to get a layup on the Raptors when Jakob Poeltl is on the court. And if you have him switching in and out with Christian Koloko, well, then we have a rim protection presence at all times in the game. And that is fantastic. He has been so good. And anybody, seriously, when somebody comes and starts talking about Jakob Poeltl this in a negative way, I instantly discount them and I become Fred VanVleet and say, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to take any information from you any further because you do not understand who Jakob Poeltl is and what his impact has been on our team. So why would I value anything else that you have to say when you have such a huge, horrible, mistaken blind spot? And yeah, it's crazy. Wayne saying, play positively and we are good. Share the ball, Raptors. Blow them out. We need to blow them out. We need to beat their ass, even with the horrible ref crew that we got today, even with just a skeleton crew of guys. In fact, like I said in the injury report, they didn't have anybody come back from injury to help them in reinforcement. Like they were saying, maybe PJ Washington will show up. Maybe Dennis Smith will show up today. No, none of them are coming back. In fact, they're losing more guys. That center, Mark Williams, their center, the rookie center, he may not be playing today now. So they're having more subtraction instead of addition to guys coming back to be able to play for the Hornets today. So that's a good sign. Seymour saying something I came across that is rubbing me wrong. Sports brings people together, people of all different walks of life. I can't support Ukraine calling for Russians to be expelled from sports. Whoa, it's wrong. It's so wrong. This is out of left field. I have no idea what's going on with this. I'm not educated on this subject, and I don't know who's saying this or the validity of any of this stuff. So I'm just going to pass this, Seymour. I have no idea what people are saying. In some ways, I mean, I get what they're saying because the people want a boycott because there are war crimes going on in that country right now. The Russians are very, very awful. They're doing all kinds of crazy bad shit. Now, maybe if you're saying from an individual standpoint, Russians shouldn't be punished if they're already in sports and they're across borders and they're already kind of in leagues like the NHL. I mean, I don't know how to handle this. I know that McDonald's and a lot of big companies have left Russia in protest of this war and the things that have happened. Maybe people were wanting to call for even more sanctions. You know, oligarchs from Russia have had their shit seized, and some of them have been put in prison if they're overseas and caught outside of Russia. I don't know. This is very complicated. I'm very much for Ukraine and against Russia in this whole situation. I really do feel like the Russian people are also getting punished by a madman named Putin. So in some ways, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know who exactly is saying this, or if this is getting any legs, or if this is just bullshit. If it's just out in the air and stuff like that. I support Ukraine. I am against Russia, and anything that they're doing there is wrong. There's horrible, horrible war crimes going on in that country. Very, very ugly shit. And it was totally unnecessary. And it was only because of the greed of one man that all this horribleness has happened. And so, yeah, I don't know. There's some ways that I'm like, yeah, we should be punishing Russia, but I don't know if punishing the individual athletes that are all in good faith and playing already, like somebody like Ovechkin. I don't know. I don't know how you deal with that. I really don't. And I'm not going to weigh on this too much other than saying I support Ukraine. Otherwise, I don't know who said it, and I don't know if I would actually support the specifics of what Seymour is talking about. Lionhunter saying Kyle had his best years when we had an NBA caliber center or two. It makes a difference. It really does. Having Jonas Valanciunas. Yeah, he loved playing with Jonas. I mean, this does matter. The NBA does still need centers for certain reasons. I just don't think that it should be your number one guy like a Jokic or Embiid. There's faults in that. But you need a good solid center, but he shouldn't be your number one best all-around player on your team. In some ways, that's a weakness. I really do believe that. All right, Tom's got the food for the refs. I like this. He's got his chef's hat on. He's got the pasta out for Ed Malloy. He's got a ninja guy who's making the sushi for Marat Kogut. And then he has a wizard who's made the canned lasagna for CJ Washington. All right. I like that you had different chefs. It's like Le Marché. Maybe they go into Le Marché and there's different little stations. There's a pasta station, the lasagna station. Lasagna station's manned by a wizard. Yeah, pretty interesting. Evelyn's saying, good morning, Raptor Freak family. Candace is watching with me. Hearts to Candace. Hearts to Candace. Baby Candace. Go Raptors, baby Candace. Go Raptors. Go Raptors. Go Raptors. I hope she's saying it with me. Tom Diggs saying, good morning, baby Candace and Granny Evelyn. Always so good to see Granny Evelyn, and she's got baby Candace with her today. I love that so much. Tom Diggs got the Raptor lineup out there. Let's see. Seymour saying, OG is the best defensive player in the league, hands down. He has been for a while. He doesn't get that shine. He started talking about it this season. People are starting to notice now because he said something about it. And, you know, hopefully he'll get an all-defensive selection. He deserves it. He definitely does. I'm with you on that. Sue's here. Good to see Sue. Good morning, everyone. Let's lay it to the Hornets again like the other day. You go. Play it again, Sue. Check out her music reaction channel on YouTube. Play it again, Sue. Sue is awesome. We love you, Sue. Chelsea, you guys do such good, fun stuff on there. And yes, I'm with you on this. Let's beat them again. Let's beat them even worse. Seymour saying, Will Lou, Michael Grange, Doug Smith need to go. Toxic reporters. You know, in some ways, Michael Grange, in some ways, he's making me more of a fan of him because he's being more real. Like, sure, he's kind of been an asshole in the past, but he's very smart about how he's covering the Raptors at this point. in some ways he does get gleeful about the controversy with us, but in also he's being more humanistic. I think in some ways some of these guys in the media are realizing there's fans like us, and that if we're their audience, they don't want to turn us off and tell us like we don't want to be like, I hate this person in the press and I don't read their stuff anymore. They don't want that in a way because we are their customers, we are their audience. So he has to come at it in a different way now because I think he's realizing that Raptors Nation is kind of evolving in some ways. That we're more educated, we're more positive, and we're more passionate, and we want to see the team win. And we don't necessarily want to hear all the bad shit. We don't want to be mired with negativity and pessimism. And that in some ways they have to take a new slant with how they write stuff for the Raptors with the positive Raptor fan in mind. And I've seen encouraging growth from Grange specifically in the way he tackles and covers the Raptors over the years recently. That he was much worse like 7 years ago when he did that Masai story to Washington, that hit piece. And then he's had a couple of missteps here and there. But I've also seen him do very encouraging, positive things as a media member for the Raptors also recently. And I appreciate that. Like yesterday on the Raptors show, he was very candid and honest about the situation with Nick Nurse. And I appreciated it because he wasn't unnecessarily putting bullshit out there. And he kind of told us the truth about the whole situation. And it seemed very authentic and real. And I appreciate Michael Grange for that. Now, as far as the other ones, Will Lou, he gets more toxic because he's snarky and downer and pessimistic and gets really like critical and angry at the team because he's emotionally cares about the team doing well. So when they don't do well, he can be very like acting out like a baby and having a temper tantrum. And that's a little bit more like the toxicity with Will Lou is that way. And as far as Doug Smith, yes, he just needs to go. He is very toxic, very, very much. Sue was saying Michael Grange was on Will Lou's show giving fire to the Nick Nurse narrative. A number of our so-called Raptors media are becoming nothing more than trolls. No time for them. Yeah, I look at it this way. Like in some ways, I'm glad he was on there kind of clarifying things. And he gave us more information about the whole situation, how it went down. And in some ways, I appreciate the information from him. I don't like the dumpster fire of it all. But if it's going to happen, I want to know the truth and I want to know the facts. And in some ways, Michael Grange, Doug Smith started the dumpster fire, and Michael Grange is kind of more explaining the dumpster fire. So I'm not as mad at Michael Grange as I am at Doug Smith. And Aaron Rose, I'm more mad at too, because he's gleefully enjoying the Nick Nurse controversy. He very much is. You go and look on his Twitter. He's crazy. He's so gleeful about it. Oh, it's so good. He's like, Aaron Rose, check yourself. Sue's saying we just need to stay positive and do our best to get into the playoffs and let the offseason stuff unfold as it will and not get caught up in the noise now. Yes, Sue. Yes, I am totally with you like that. Everything in its right place and its right time and its right order. And that's why that interview last Friday by Nick was not in the right order of things. And that's why it caused all kinds of craziness. Seymour saying, so true, Sue. So true. What a tongue twister. My meds are kicking in. Seymour, I hope you're healing up good. Man, all those stitches and the dental surgery. I hope you're doing very, very much better today. You're feeling better and better every day. Tom Duke saying, too true, Sue. I like that. That's a very alliterative. Too true, Sue. It's almost a tongue twister. Too true, Sue. Too true, Sue. Too true, Sue. Oh, man. Rubber baby buggy bummers. Rubber baby buggy bummers. Too true, Sue. Tongue twisters. Sue facts. Yeah. Trevor's saying, how can you live here in Toronto and be so innovative as a fan about your team? You guys are thinking like outsiders. What are you saying? How can you live here in Toronto and be so innovative as a fan about your team? You guys are thinking like outsiders. I don't totally understand that question. Trevor, please elaborate and maybe explain it in a different way because I don't know. I totally understand. Who are you asking that to? Are you asking it to me? Are you asking it to other fans? Are you asking it to players? Who are you asking it to? Who is you? Blackhawk saying to convert Dowtin, who do you let go? Barton, Wieskamp, Thad, Flynn, Delano, or Otto? This is a great question. Thank you, Blackhawk. I would like to let go of Barton. That Barton has the least amount of time with us, although it's kind of 50-50. I would either him or Wieskamp. I wouldn't let go of Thad or Flynn or Delano or Otto. They don't make sense. Otto's for next year. Thad is useful for the playoffs just in case. Flynn and Delano are young prospects are great. It really has to be either Will Barton or Joe Weezy. Now, there is an argument that could be made that Will Barton's the guy to go with because he's more vet. He'll be more useful in the playoffs if we get somewhere. And Joe Weezy doesn't have as much experience. But then the argument is, well, Joe Weezy's been hitting his shots way better than Will Barton has. So if we want that shooter off the bench that can fill up with threes, that may be the path to go with him. But I really do think that the decision is between Will and Joe. That if we're going to convert Dowtin after today, if he plays today, he can't play tomorrow. Then we're going to have to convert him and we're going to have to cut one of those guys. And I think it probably might be Joe Weezy just because he's kind of the last man on the bench. Will Barton was in the rotation and he was getting minutes and they were trying to use him. And he is more useful in the playoffs in some ways because of his experience. So I think that's who it is. I think it's Joe Wieskamp. Sue saying, at Seymour, Tom and Mike, love to you all. Oh, I love that. And then right back at her is love from Seymour. We love you too, Sue. I like it. I love all the. See, this is what it is. Share the love. Scotty Barnes, share the love club. Sharing the love. Maybe we'll do share the love club with Raptor Freaks on one summer. Well, we do like a share the love club, Sue, and we just share the love for people on our channel during the summer. I don't know. I can't do the players all the time. I don't want to do them over and over again every summer. So I'm thinking about media people and Raptor Freaks for doing the share the love club this summer. We'll have to see. I'll mix it up and we'll figure it out. Bradley's saying, good morning, Lex and Raptor Freaks. Keep the pedal to the metal. Pass to the open guy. Dunk instead of the layups. Let's go Raptors and Raptor Freaks. I still believe. Let's go. Later, Lex and Freaks. Bam, bam. Thank you, Canadian Cowboy. Have a good one from Seymour Pape and myself, of course, and the rest of them. Yeah, I like this. Keep the pedal to the metal and let's keep going at those Hornets and not let up. Don't be a slouch to a slouch team. Play at a high level and blow them out, dominate, and get good achievements like 2020 games and 36 points. Pascal Siakam and Fred. Yeah, that's what I want to see. Another good game today. Monique saying, do I ever love the work Chris and his foundation are doing? Oh, this is a great thing to bring up. Thank you, Monique. Chris Boucher announcing yesterday that he's going to have a scholarship here in Toronto at the Toronto Metropolitan University. He is giving a scholarship to Caribbean people of descent. And that this is awesome. Chris is such a benevolent, awesome person with his work with the homeless in Montreal already. Well, now he's doing great things here in the Toronto community also with this new scholarship. You go, Chris Boucher. What a leader and a great role model for everybody in the NBA and people just in their everyday lives. Chris Boucher is awesome. We love him. Yeah, Smooth saying thank you to G. Yeah, we really do appreciate you being here, Smooth. You've been a great addition. Blackhawk saying, aha, players disconnected, yet players are the ones who win games. We can't have it both ways. Coaches are critical for winning. Players lose focus and coaches refocus players. Yeah. There's job description the coach is supposed to do, and that's to have your team prepared and motivated and ready to play and have their best chance to win the game. You have to have your players and put them in the best possible situations to be successful. And in some ways, I don't feel like Nick has totally put our players individually or as a whole, as a team, in the best possible positions to be successful. In fact, there have been times this season where in late game situations, we seem unorganized and chaotic and kind of dropping the ball right at the end of the game when we shouldn't and losing games right at the end. And that to me smacked of like, are we losing on purpose? Are we tanking? Are we stealth tanking? Or is it just that the coach is failing in the last part of the game to get everybody organized in the way that's productive to make us the most successful? That is part of what I've wondered about this whole entire season. And this may be part of what Bobby and Messiah are looking at as far as with Nick and assessing his job this season. How successful was he in late game situations with play calling, rotations, who was in there, what happened in the game? Did he mismanage games and then we lost partly because of coaching decisions? That's all stuff that they can try and figure out. And his record and things like, in some ways they asked a question to Nick and he got really upset talking about like unsuccessful things that have happened this season that have been unsuccessful in certain situations, late game situations. It's basically you're saying to Nick, you've been a failure at times. And he got kind of mad in the interview in the practice yesterday when somebody kind of intimated towards that. And he had a feistiness to him about it, defending himself. Feeling a little defensive at times, Nick Nurse, right now, these days. Let's see. I'm a fun guy saying I get what Fred was trying to say and don't hate it, but he's wrong. He could never hang with even half of Raptors Republic guys analytically, like Samson Falk, Louis. Many fans could put him to shame. I think that's wrong, actually. Fun guy. Listen, there's a difference between numbers people and real in practice people. And this is the difference. The numbers are all after the fact. He's talking about creating the numbers ahead of the time. Those guys can go look at his numbers afterwards and analyze the shit out of it. And they're very smart people. I don't want to discount them, but they do not know basketball as well as Fred does. If you go and ask Samson Falk to his face, he would tell you this. He would agree with Fred, and he'd agree with me right now, and he would not agree with you. He would not tell you that he's smarter about basketball than Fred. Samson's too smart to know that he isn't. And that's the thing. These guys can look at the numbers after the fact. We're talking about Fred creates the stats. Fred is the one who has to find the path to manufacture them and put them on the court. It's real easy to look at them and crunch them and have opinions and write about them and stuff like that. But it's way harder to make them on the court. And just understand how hard and all the work and all the years of building yourself up as a player and experience and just decades of work that gets you to that point where Fred is at. And, I understand what you're trying to say here, but no, not the Raptors Republic guys, not Samson Folk, not Oren Weisfeld, not Doug Smith. None of them know more about basketball than Fred does because he does it. It's like they say, either you do it or you teach. If you're teaching, you're not doing it. So if you do it, then you really know what you're doing. And that's the thing. Those that can't do it, they teach. And that's the difference. This guy's doing it. And that I'm sorry, I got to disagree with you. And I know that if you ask Samson Folk, he would disagree with you also. Fiercely saying, if Nick Nurse checked out, nothing we can do. Would be worried if he had adjusted to the league and changed his vision in terms of lineups and schemes, but he hasn't, and most likely will do the same elsewhere. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. He has a certain style, of way of doing things with coaching and stuff. Some ways he's very stubborn and very arrogant with like how he gives minutes to his players. In some ways, he really does play favorites, and he doesn't help everybody or he doesn't give everybody chances. He really does play heavy on certain guys. And I don't like that. In some ways, that's not a strength to him. That's a weakness. And he may think it's a strength, but I don't think it is. You know what? If he's checked out, he's got to continue to go through the motions. We can't do anything about that. At least show up and give a good effort. And hopefully the guys aren't checked out, even if he is slightly himself. But I'm just going to be paying attention to him really closely and seeing whether he is like dialed in and really, really coaching his heart out still with the time that's going on, or has he just completely he's like, I don't give a shit. I don't care what happens. I don't know. We'll have to see. He's given signs that he does care at times this week, and he's also given signs very much that he has checked out. So I don't know. I'm really going to take it on a case by case basis, each and every game, and how he's doing things. Cowboys saying respect to Seymour. Bam. Enough love to all the Raptor freaks. Let's go. Another big W. I can smell it in the air. Let's go. Win by 23 points. Okay, gotta go. Peace out. All right, Bradley, be safe out there. Ta-da. For all your needs at your house, maybe he can help you. You need your windows washed. You need your carpet clean. Ta-da can help you out. They're in the phone book. Fiercely saying, Lex, pretend you have a little piggy bank and put a loony every time you say the H word. That will be a motivator reminder. Maybe I will do that. Maybe I will do that. That will be a word that we have banned from this channel. Hate. No more hate. Stop hate. And we're going to stop that. Yeah, maybe this will be the piggy bank. I don't know what else. I don't have money like that though. I don't. Maybe it'll have to be dimes. I might actually do it and say, "Oh crap," and then I have to put money in the piggy bank. And then when the money's raised, we'll see how much money I made. Hopefully, I didn't raise too much because I don't have. Like I said, I'm not going to be able to do loonies. Maybe quarters. I could maybe do quarters. Evelyn's saying, "Hey, cowboy. Hey, Bradley. I got your hoodie. She's got to find you, Bradley." You know, Evelyn, you should just get in the phone book, call Tada and say, I need Bradley here right now. I have a job for him. And then he can go there and maybe it'll be some little job that you have him do. Like, I need you to carry this over there for me real quick. And here's your hoodie. And then boom, that's how you could do it, Evelyn. You got to call Tada and get them to come to your house and he'll do the work. And then you can give him that great championship hoodie that you've given everybody else. I love it. Seymour saying Bradley Beal is under investigation for gambling. Ain't he making enough money? Shaking my head. Signs of a loser. Is he under? No, he's not under investigation himself. He's under investigation because he hit a gambling fan for yelling at him for losing money on him. No, I don't think that's what the story is, unless it's changed in the last couple of days. The last I heard is the fan was yelling at him about gambling on him and losing. Once again, toxic gambling shit. And Bradley wasn't having it. He came over and flipped his hat off his head. And they're investigating him for assault with the gambling fan. It's not that he was gambling himself. That's not what I heard. It's that he's getting investigated for assaulting the guy by hitting his hat off his head. It's so lame and soft. And that's not what I'm seeing. Maybe different. If I'm wrong and that is some sort of different story where he is gambling, then I'll correct it and I'll apologize to you, Seymour. But from what I've heard, that's what the situation. Let's see. Kenrick saying, who would you rather play in the play-in, the Heat, the Hawks, or the Bulls? Ideally, this is the best situation for the Raptors. Now, this is the thing. Tonight's most important game is the Atlanta Hawks versus the Bulls game tonight. In fact, that game may determine a lot of things about the play-in, that game tonight. It has been very much determined by Karthika from TSN, the stat lady, that this is the game that matters the most on the way out, this Atlanta and Chicago game tonight, because it's going to determine a couple things. Now, if we can get Chicago to beat Atlanta, this will be really good. But what will happen is if we don't beat Charlotte, we'll all be tied and have the exact same records, all three of us. And we won't even be like Atlanta and us. Now, the weird things with the tiebreakers are this. Atlanta beats us with their tiebreaker, but we beat Chicago, and Chicago beats Atlanta. So it's a really weird situation where we're really going to have to pay attention and see what happens. Now, if Miami loses a couple more, we could actually end up in the sixth spot, not the seventh spot of the play-in. We could actually end up getting home court advantage in the seventh play-in spot if everything goes really well for us. But that's going to take us winning a bunch of these tough games with Boston and Milwaukee on the way out. So it's not likely. So the best we can hopefully possibly do on a long shot, we could get the seventh seed, but we want the eighth seed. And it's most likely that we'll have to play the Miami Heat in a one and done to get to the seventh seed to play against the Boston Celtics in the first round. Now, depending on what happens tonight, like if Atlanta beats the Bulls, that will make them even further back of us, and it'll keep Atlanta in that eighth spot. Now, if we beat the Hornets and the Bulls beat the Hawks, then we will be in that eighth seed and have a little bit of a lead over Atlanta finally, because right now we're tied with them, and we need to get a game above them for sure. So we really are rooting for DeMar DeRozan and the Bulls tonight, and we're definitely rooting for us. So we take care of our own business tonight. That'll really help. But this is all going to go down the wire right up until the end of the season, the seeding for the play-in. Now, if I had my pick, I'd like to play Miami in a one and done, just beat them once in Miami, and then go and have the series with Boston. I don't want to lose to Miami in Miami, obviously, and then have to go and play either the Hawks or the Bulls in an elimination game for that second play-in spot. So ideally, we're in the eighth spot or the seventh spot if it's not very likely. And then we're playing Miami and Kyle, and we beat them in one and done game. They go to the lower part of the play-in, and we're playing against the Celtics in the first round. And there you go. That's kind of the way I look at it at this point. Comma crazy. Okay. All right. Cool Cat saying Fred VanVleet should not engage, respond to fans talking smack. Just let your game speak for itself. Fans will respond positively to your on-court production. You call fans dumb, hurting your voting. Closing line. He's not calling them dumb. He's just saying no disrespect. I don't care what you think. And in some ways, he's right. He's very, very, very right. It may hurt some people. It may be like, oh, that hurts my feelings. Well, get over yourself. We don't need to be so egotistical that our opinion matters so much. I mean, I say a lot of opinions on here, but in some ways I know the limits of what I should, whether I should care if people listen to me or not. Now, in this case, I'm telling you, it's not that he's calling them dumb. He's just saying no disrespect, but I don't listen to y'all because you're not qualified to tell me how to do my job. And that is perfectly okay. I mean, if it was any other profession, you wouldn't even question it. It'd be like, yeah, I get it. I shouldn't be telling you how to do brain surgery. It's a similar kind of thing in a lot of ways. People don't think it is just because it's a kid's sport. But at the level that they're at and the nuts and bolts and the specifics that they're doing, we have no idea exactly the breadth and the width of the playbook and just how much is in it and how much they need to know and how much accrued knowledge Fred has from just experience and playing the NBA. There's so much to it, and that there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think this hurts. These people already hated him. Nobody's gonna stop buying his clothes or anything because he said that, because they love who he is already. And this is just more people that already love him will be like, yeah, you go, Fred. I'm gonna buy his shirt still. The people that are not gonna buy his shirt because of what he said are the people who aren't gonna buy his shirt anyway. So I don't get this. I'm not worried about what the fans think. I'm with Fred on this. And even if it cuts like a little bit to my heart, it's like, oh, Fred doesn't care what I say on my Raptor Freak channel in the morning. Well, it should be that way, and I'm perfectly fine with it. He's in another world, in another realm of life as an NBA player, and in some ways, he shouldn't be dealing with us. He really shouldn't, because it's toxic and it's unnecessary. And in some ways, if he's just making general blanket statements on these podcasts and saying this is how I feel about it, maybe people understand that it's futile for them to make content like they do, certain people, and saying the things they say about him, because he's not even listening. He doesn't even care. Smooth saying, I'm trying hard to be like Nick and live in the moment with this team. Maybe we get lightning in a bottle and be like the 98-99 Knicks. I'd love to be like a lower seed that does really far and does really crazy stuff, like a Houston Rockets team from like the 90s, or, something like that. But I mean, the chances aren't very good. But if anybody's going to do it, it's our team, because we're crazy and we are super talented and we could do a lot of damage. As Pascal said, he wants to get into the postseason and do some damage. He wants to do some things and mess people up. That's what Siakam said on ESPN yesterday. I like it. Duke saying, I remember back in the 90s, one of the stipulations, Vancouver and Toronto to get an NBA team, Canada wasn't allowed to bet on the NBA. This was in regards to Pro Line. Lex, do you know why? Well, in some ways, back then, when David Stern was in charge of the NBA, he was very anti-gambling. In fact, he was really worried about the things that are happening right now happening to the league. And in fact, like I've said recently, David Stern's probably rolling over in his grave that Adam Silver has opened up gambling in the NBA at this point. Seriously, like he's not happy about this, because he fought so hard not to allow it to happen. First of all, there was no gambling on the NBA anywhere for the longest time. And then when they opened it up in the States, they didn't open it up here in Canada because in some ways they didn't want certain things. And then there was a whole thing about wanting a team in Las Vegas for many years, like since the 80s. And the NBA and David Stern said no, because of its proximity to organized gambling, and that they wouldn't even have a team in Las Vegas just because of the optics of it. Not even that they could do it and get away with it and not having the linkages. They just were worried that just having the players in Las Vegas or around a lot of gambling would be bad for the team, for the league, and the competitiveness and the perceptions of gambling around the NBA. Well, Adam Silver does not care about any of this, obviously. And in some ways, it's like a plane crash coming and happening. And that I think David Stern would be very disappointed with his stance and how much he's opened up gambling to be so mainstreamly intertwined with the product and being on TV at this point. And that I hate that the rules changed here in Ontario for opening up all kinds of online gambling and stuff. The casinos hate it because nobody's going there anymore. They just do it all online now. So brick and mortar casinos suffer for this. And then it's open for everybody and it's so accessible. It's just not good. It's more Doug Ford just like being like, I just want to make more money, more money, more money, even if it decays society, even if it decays morals, even if it hurts like, sports, pro sports in certain ways. They have no morals. All they care about is that, just like Lucas said. That's all they care about at this point with the betting around the sport. So it's the history. David Stern very much was gatekeeping gambling away from the NBA while he was alive. Well, he's passed, and his predecessor afterwards, or his person afterwards, has come in and he's opened business up in a really toxic way. I hate it. Space Cadet saying, I don't think he called them dumb. He just said he values the opinion of people who know the game, like his teammates and coaches, and not some weirdo in his mom's basement trying to explain assist rigging. Yeah, that's exactly right, Space Cadet. The language wasn't that he called us dumb. He just said he doesn't care what we think. He doesn't put any value in our opinions. And in some ways, it's not directly saying we're dumb, but it's just saying we're not smart on the subject as he is. And that's totally true. That is so true. And anybody who thinks like they do know more about the NBA or playing basketball than an NBA player, you got to check yourself. Seriously. You don't, especially smart ones that have a high IQ. The young ones, maybe the knuckleheads on the Houston Rockets, maybe they don't know basketball as well because they're not fundamentally trained. But somebody like Fred, yeah, he knows basketball. Trust me, he has a PhD and he's working on another doctorate, I'm sure. Fun guy saying, yelling it. Reinforcement at the center position will drastically catapult us. Jakob was a mere step one to me and need more. Another two could be the championship difference. One big center at least. Laugh out loud. Yeah, we can get another center. I'm all about that. We want another center. We got Koloko. We got Jakob. We could get another center in there. That would be fantastic. I'm all about that. Mike's saying Space Cadet. No doubt. That's right. Blackhawk saying, I can't support governments dropping bombs on civilians. If it means boycotting Russian teams to emphasize that, so be it. Yeah, I'm with this. I can get behind this. I don't know. It seems like this should have been a discussion way earlier in this fight. Now, all of a sudden, it's becoming up now. Why didn't you guys talk about Russian players and things like this in certain points? I don't know. I'm just hearing that the Russians are really doing poorly. They have no bullets right now. Bull of the Fifth Column has said that they've run out of bullets, that they are so hard up and in a bad place that they are rationing bullets at the front line of their because they don't have enough production. They have no money. They have no nothing. They're sending all their supplies to the new front line for the Russian side is all like 60s Soviet equipment that is so outdated and torn up and old and crappy that side is really hurting. And they're actually very much losing. They've been losing this whole time. This whole war was a big unsuccessful flop for Putin. And it has absolutely been a huge failure for him. But he has pride and he has arrogance, and that's what drives him to continue with this. Even though there's tons of people in his country that are leaving the country and trying to come to the States that don't believe in the war. There's a lot of people, like there's a whole program in Ukraine where will take the Russian soldiers and like peaceful and let them surrender, and they get to live in the country and just quit fighting. And there's so many Russian soldiers that are literally just giving up and coming over and saying, I don't want to fight in this war for Putin because I don't believe in it. And they're surrendering. So the Russian side is doing absolutely horrible right now. Absolutely horrible. They don't have enough bullets. They have shoddy old equipment. And a lot of their soldiers that are young, that are sent in there, are turning around, handing their guns to the Ukrainians and surrendering and becoming, peaceful citizens in Ukraine that are not all about Russia anymore or fighting their stupid ass war in the way that they're doing it. Common Crazy, you're not getting a wrench ever. I don't even know who you are. All I've seen of you is like weird toxic. So you go ahead, give me some more comments, and maybe I'll see it if I'll give you a wrench. Duke saying, in regards to sports betting, most of the NBA podcasts with tremendous views advertise betting. It's part of their content because I've seen them go through their picks. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's becoming more and more like that. I'm not going to be like that. Somebody asked me about the spread in the game last stream before the preview for the last game. And I said, if it's over 15, take it. That's just my educated opinion. And I was right. The spread was exactly 15. And I didn't even know that. I didn't look it up or anything. I'm educated on knowing this kind of stuff with sports. And I guessed that it was 15 and I was right. And then I said, yeah, go ahead and take that bet. They'll cover it. And they did. They got over 20. They got 20 points. So they did cover the spread. So I did give good betting advice on that day, even if I didn't want to. And it was on the fly and I didn't even know what I was talking about. I did know what I was talking about. But yeah, I'm not going to add that kind of aspect to this channel. You will not ever see me giving you my picks and betting lines in different ways. Once again, I reject all that. Let's see. Jason Smith's here saying, I think people are scared of the Raptors in the playoffs. Yeah, very dangerous. Nobody wants to play us. It'll be fun. Like if we get that rematch with the Celtics in the first round, just imagine if we put them out in the first round with their home court advantage in the second seed. That would be such a huge fail, and it would be so fun. It'd be great to get revenge against the Celtics in that kind of way for the bubble series, that 7-game series that they just barely won against us. In some ways, the league will never let us beat the Celtics. They'll do ref manipulation. But if we can do it, like if we can do a Seymour Pape kind of, you saying there's a chance? Are you saying there's a way we can do it? Oh, man, what a story we'd write if we could beat the Celtics in the first round after getting through the play-in. I'm all about that, baby. Cowboys saying, shoot, Granny Drip. Thank you so much. Love you lots. Maybe by the time I see you, I can trade you some pepper plants. Thank you for thinking about me. More people got to be like you. Bless you, and you're for real. Got to go. All right, Bradley. Giving the love to Granny Evelyn and other Raptor freaks, all kinds of stuff. He gives you love and pepper plants. His love language is pepper plants, and Evelyn's is Raptor swag. So there's going to be a meeting of the minds, and the love language will be exchanged. There will be a pepper plant going one way and some Raptor swag going the other. Love language fulfilled. I love it. I love it. I love it. Monique saying, I don't know if you read Muggsy's tweet, but he wanted to suit up for the Hornets. Yeah, I saw that, Monique. I'm glad you mentioned this. Monique always coming in with the gems, the overlooked things I forget to talk about. And she reminds me of them. This was so funny. It really, really was. Muggsy saw on Sunday who I was suiting up for the Hornets, and he joked. He's like, hey, Hornets, do y'all need me to suit up and play for y'all today against the Raptors? And there was a really bad comment by somebody in Raptors Nation saying, yeah, I think they'll really need it or something like that. And then somebody saying, don't make that comment because what if we lose to the Hornets? Thankfully, we didn't. But yeah, I thought that was hilarious. I wonder about Muggsy. How well could he play at this point? I mean, he's got to be like 50 something. He was so quick when he was little. He does look like he's still in good shape. But I would be very surprised to see Muggsy out there run around, see how quick he is at this point in his 50s. But that was hilarious. I thought it was so hilarious. And it's fun because him and Dell, of course, are Raptors also. They're Hornets, but also Raptors. So that game, this game today, is special for them because in some ways it's their two most important teams, the Hornets and the Raptors. Now, don't get it twisted. I know Muggsy Bogues and Dell Curry are first Hornets Nation, and they always should be. Honestly, they should because their history, their most important parts of their history and their career is in Charlotte. But they are important Raptors also. So they have that kind of bridge. And the Toronto Raptors at Charlotte Hornets are fun games for Muggsy Bogues and for Dell Curry calling the game in the booth. Very awesome. G saying that's the new clickbait, assist rigging. How assists can be selfish. No high-level coach will ever say a player receiving a pass while in a high percentage position is selfish. It's just good ball. Once again, this is semantics. This is spin. This is Fox News kind of shit. You can take any kind of thing and spin it either positive or negative, and that's what they're doing. This is definitely a positive thing. Getting assists is a positive thing. It's very much the epitome of the most unselfish stat that you can collect in the NBA. So how are some people spinning it in a way that it seems like it's a selfish thing? That's because it's spin. It's bullshit. It has nothing to do with the reality of the situation. And I think that in some ways, people need to be discounting people's validity or credibility when they make such asinine arguments that it goes against the basic fundamentals and principles of basketball. That's what I'm saying. Oh, well, you just discredited yourself because you call him a stat patter. And you said that him getting all those assists is a negative. Well, you said that Jakob Poeltl isn't good for this team. Okay, you're discrediting yourself, and you have just shown that you're maybe somebody that we shouldn't be listening to, as far as like your perception or things that you think about the NBA, because you very much have an idiotic viewpoint. Uh, all right, let's see. Let me keep going with the comments. I love it. I love all the comments today. MSJ saying we're gonna win. The Hornets are such a weak team. Let's go, Raptors. Maybe DeMar and the Bulls can do us a favor and take down the Hawks. We got that 8 spot by 10 p.m. Yeah, and it'll give us a whole game between. But also, we got to weather the storm, possibly that we lose games going out with the Celtics and the Milwaukee game. So we got to get this one tonight. 40 wins by the end of tonight, and hopefully sole possession of the 8th seed in the play-in. That is the goal for today. Take it step by step. And the Raptors can only control what they can control. Nick Nurse said yesterday he could look at all the schedule and try and figure out they win, they lose, this happens, all the different scenarios of outcomes with all the teams involved in this play-in race that we're involved with. And it doesn't matter. He can't control any of the other things with the other teams. He can only control what we do and what our team does. So he's very, very tunnel focused on just the Raptors and their games and their outcome and taking care of business of what we can take care of. Because we can't take care of what's going to happen with Atlanta. We can't take care of what's going to happen with Chicago or Miami. And that we need to just focus on our own shit and take care of what we can control. And hopefully things will work out in the right way. Maybe we catch some breaks with the other teams having some losses, and that we do get to that 7th seed. That would be so good if we had the home court advantage in a one play-in game situation here in Toronto. Woo! Look out! You might as well pencil us in to get into the playoffs if that's the situation. Smooth saying Otto is Gary's replacement for next year. I don't know if he's exactly the same kind of player, but listen, the writing does seem like it's on the wall that Trent Jr. is not going to be with us next season. But I won't speculate too far. Duke's saying, I've also seen YouTube sites dedicated only to sports betting. The betting content has blown up in recent years on YouTube. Yeah, well, it is what it is. I mean, there's going to be a market for that, obviously. Once again, my stance on this is never going to change. It's not like I'm magically going to get into it all of a sudden. I'll be like, I was wrong, guys. You should all be gambling, and this is what we should do. No, I'm going to stand pat on where I'm at with this and never ever go to that dark side, because I know it personally could be very bad for me. And I just don't want to encourage it for anybody else either. So that stuff's going to be out there, of course. The market's going to be out there, and there's going to be Wilson Chang on the broadcast talking about Bet Rivers and all this kind of stuff. It is what it is. But yeah, it's bullshit, and I'm gonna ignore it. And you guys can go get into it if you want, but I don't recommend it. I mean, if you need that to enjoy watching basketball, to gamble and have a little side bet involved in things, go play fantasy basketball instead. You can ask the people who played in our fantasy league this year. The vested interest in individual players through the fantasy is enough without having actually a financial stake on the game or any kind of toxic like that. Fun guy saying that's tough. Barton is kind of bad, but Wieskamp doesn't play, and neither would Dowtin. Hard choice, but Weezy could have a future with us. I'd say let Barton go. Yeah, I don't even know if Weezy would have a future with us. In some ways, I'm not really worried about that. That's not what I would factor in. Dowtin probably will play. If we convert him and we go into the playoffs, he will definitely probably be our backup point guard. He's just done the best job that it would just totally make sense that he would be the backup to Fred in the postseason. He's just too capable and too consistent that it would be dumb not to use him. So, yeah, I think he will actually play if we do convert him. Trevor's saying, no, I mean, how could you live here in Toronto and be negative of your team? Thanks. Thinking like outsiders. Okay, Trevor, I'm glad you elaborated on your earlier question. I just didn't understand it just from how you wrote it. But I'm glad you totally elaborated. Like, how could you live here in Toronto and be negative of your team? Well, that's kind of just the way of Leaf culture. You got to think about that also. A lot of like sports culture in Toronto is dictated by Leaf Nation. That Leaf Nation is super cynical, doesn't buy into things. They're very judgmental, and they can be very, very critical and toxic. Like Leaf Nation really does come at their team in negative ways, much like New York market may come after the Knicks. That I've often explained that the Leafs are like the Knicks in the NHL, that they have a lot of dysfunction and a lot of cooks in the kitchen kind of trying to run that team. And that's why they have all kinds of problems. And there's over analyzing of their team by different people, and too many people thinking this and this. And they can't get any singular person who's in charge who really has a clear vision to get them going. And they've had success recently, which is good. But historically, Leafs Nation is cynical, critical, and they don't necessarily show support for the team, even though they love the team. And that's part of the problem, is that Leaf sports culture bleeds into Raptor sports culture. And some of those sports fans from that nation apply the same kind of cynical, negative, I love this team, but I hate it because I'm pained because they always lose. And they want to put it on us with our nation too. And that's part of the problem. And then you add in that Toronto sports culture is also very fair weather, that if the team is not winning, the full city won't get behind them. If they're kind of half-assed, people will turn it off and not pay attention. And that's been the Raptors this year. We're watching the game on Sportsnet the other day, and what did they put at the bottom of the screen since baseball started? Baseball's on another Sportsnet channel right now. Why are you watching basketball on Sportsnet? You can be watching baseball on Sportsnet. And that's why they put that thing at the bottom. They do this all the time on Raptors games. Now, do they go on the Blue Jays game and say, hey, the Raptors are on the other channel, you could go watch basketball on the other channel? I don't think they do. If you watch baseball and you see an advertisement for a Raptors game on at the same time on another channel, tell me, please. But otherwise, Rogers is trying to divert people from watching the Raptors games to starting to watch the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays haven't started well at all. They finally hit a home run yesterday for the first time all weekend, and they've been losing like crazy. So they've started really shitty. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes they don't even want us to watch it. The people that are putting it on the TV, they'd rather us go watch the sport that they own, the baseball, Rogers. And that's just something weird. So there's all kinds of different forces that make Toronto people cynical about rooting for their team or liking their team. It's Toronto Maple Leafs culture. It's cynical, fair weather Raptors sports fans just in general. And I'm with you. I mean, why even put the time or be like that? Like, why? Some of these people live in Toronto and they don't root for the Raptors. In fact, they hate the Raptors and they root for the Lakers and they root for the Warriors. They root for the Celtics. They root for the Knicks. They root for other teams against us in this city because they're fans of those other teams. So there's a lot of those kind of people in the city also. And they may add their noise to things here in Toronto because they're on the ground floor and they hate the Raptors actually. And they are part of the problem in our toxic fan nation also. So there's a lot of different factors that contribute to what you're saying, Trevor, as far as like how could you live here and be so negative about your team? It's Toronto sports culture, unfortunately. Wayne saying, apart from Chris Boucher, who's Nick Nurse developed over his tenure, who we have seen improvement over 4 or 5 years. Nick Nurse got a ready-made team apart from the Spurs trade. That's pretty fair, Wayne. I can't say Malachi. I mean, we could say some good stuff about Precious in the last 2 years. I feel like he's been a success story. And Delano to a degree, but not this year. Last year, Delano, but not this year. And I can't say that Koloko has been developed correctly this year. So this is a very good, fair point, Wayne, as far as coming with Nick and the development that he does. It's not very much, and it's specific guys. And the thing that developed Chris was tough love. And it's in a way, Chris got better on Nick's terms, not on the terms that he would have done it like any kind of way. He had to very much go the way that Nick wanted him to go to develop to get to the point where he's at. So it's interesting. Duke saying analytics for sure has its place in any sports or business to help with decisions. Analytics doesn't compensate for nuance. Moneyball does take into heart and desire into consideration. Yeah, this is the difference between the Raptors Republic knowing basketball and Fred knowing the nuance and the reality of the specifics of things on the court. And they could be so innocuously crazy. Like you may not even understand some of the proprietary things that NBA players need to know to be good at what they're doing. And some of it's just wisdom that you learn from situations and going through that situation. And then if the situation comes back around again, you have to really know in a split second how to react in the right way than you did the last time where you may have failed. So there's so much to it. Nuance is a really good word for this. And the difference in intelligence and knowing about basketball between Fred and the common fan. Nuance is a very, very important part of this. Duke, great point. I'm a fun guy saying, laugh out loud. Oh my God, Lex. Fred does it and creates the stats. Yes, agree. Can't hang with him, but Fred said nothing. That also includes after the fact analytics. And that's my point. He can't even hang in that aspect. All right, I don't totally understand your comment. Let me see. Fred does it and creates the stats. Yes, agree. Can't hang with him, but Fred said nothing. Nothing. What do you mean nothing? Well, nothing. Yeah, there's nothing we can tell him that he doesn't already know. That's what he's saying. Seriously. I mean, we could come and tell him, like, Fred, you need to make your shots. Well, I know that. I know I need to make my shots. You could come and tell him, it's like, Fred, we want you to pass it more. Well, I know that. I'm doing that. It's nothing we add that he doesn't already know or understand. That's his point. It's like, it's not like we are fresh and, oh, we have some brilliant innovation or idea in our head that if we magically tell him, it's going to fix things for him. No, there's nothing like that. That's his point. That's what he means, is that he doesn't need our advice because it won't help him. That's the difference. That is the difference. And that's what he means. Nothing we could say to him will help him with his game. Trust me. Seriously. Nothing. Duke saying Moneyball does not type 0. Interesting. I don't know enough about Moneyball. It's really baseball oriented, but I know that the analytics of Moneyball have been applied to other professional sports, including the NBA, and that it is something that a lot of GMs do think about in certain ways and how to game their roster and get things right with what they're doing. But I really am kind of dumb on the subject of Billy Bean and the Oakland A's and that movie. I didn't even see that movie, so I haven't read the book or anything. It's such a baseball kind of thing that I didn't get into it. But I know that it is something that's used and carried over to other sports. Leslie's saying these issues with gambling fans are going to get worse. I worry that will be a regular occurrence in NBA games where fans yell crazy things at players. Yeah, NBA security, you better be ready. You're going to have more and more of these incidents because people are stupid and crazy. This world is already in economic and financial problems for the average everyday man. So why are you going to go ahead and make it worse by putting more and more gambling out there? And people don't win money when they gamble. They lose. The house wins. And you're just going to make more poor people even poorer. And when poor people are poor, they add more crime. They act out more because they're more desperate. So yeah, you go ahead and feel good about your contribution, sports bet rivers and all that kind of stuff. You're going to make poverty worse. You're going to make crime worse. You're going to make social problems worse. You're going to make issues with fans and the players worse in the NBA. And this is coming from a sociologist, somebody who did study sociology in school, just like Fred. Fred studied sociology also, and somebody who has studied these kind of things and has an astute background with knowing these kind of things. So this is what I'm going to say. You're going to cause social problems. Social problems and crime are caused by economic problems. Well, you're going to cause more economic problems by gambling guys out of their last little bit of money, and then they can't feed their family. And then there's all kinds of problems like bank robberies and like getting mad at players because they didn't cover spreads and stuff like that. Yeah, you're going to get what you get. More problems, more crime, more violence, more confusion, more poverty. Yeah, that's what you want. You're going to get that. That's what you're getting. Oh my gosh. Mike's saying, Wayne, not true. Nick unlocked all NBA spicy. Casey wouldn't let him bring the ball up. OG had 1 year with Casey. He's focused on Precious, Gary, Scotty lately, but they have gotten better. Nick is good. Okay, this is actually good, valid counterpoints by Mike, and I'll give him this. I'll give him the Siakam specifically for sure. He's exactly right with what with him unlocking Siakam after Casey left. In some ways, Siakam did not bloom under Dwayne. He definitely bloomed under Nick. So that's actually a good piece of evidence for Mike's argument here. So I can give him that. And OG, all right, yeah. So all right. This is tough to say. In some ways, I'm not happy with the level of development with the guys on the bench. Sure, he's developed the starters, Mike, but has he developed the bench guys as much or as good as he could have? No. And that's where I have a problem with his developing is he doesn't develop bench roles or role players off the bench that are useful for the whole thing. And he's so reliant on the starters. Kubron saying, hey, bro, another W tonight. Yes, I'm with you, Kubron. You go Raptor Freak, Kubron. With you, man. Let's get that W. Duke Rocks is saying, I'm not a big college guy, but Fred was the star of his team. And from what I understand, was clutch. The finals, he was incredible. There is something about Fred that I trust when it counts. Yeah. Wichita State, he was incredibly clutch. Incredible. Really good. And he's been clutch for us, too, on the NBA level. And we need to not forget that. Smooth saying, has DeMarcus Cousins been blacklisted? Why isn't he in the league? Well, honestly, he hasn't been that good for a few years now. He's been more hurt than healthy, first of all. He's kind of like not necessarily a good teammate to have on the team. In some ways, his personality is not like team oriented. Let's just put it that way. So in some ways, he's not worth the risk of having on your team for what you would get out of him as a player. I think he's washed. I thought he was washed like 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm not surprised he's not in the league right now. There's a lot of guys in this that could be in the league right now that aren't, like Serge Ibaka, Carmelo Anthony, DeMarcus. DeMarcus is making a fuss right now because he's like, why am I not on a team right now? Why am I not coming back to the Lakers? Well, you've been there and done that with LeBron, and LeBron didn't really like playing with you, and he wanted you to leave, and that's why you're not back with the Lakers. He's just, in some ways, he wears his welcome out. His talent was very, very immense and very good when he was in New Orleans, and he played at a very high level. But when he started to go other places, like when he ended up over in Sacramento, he started in other places, he became a distraction. He became a problem. He wasn't a good citizen in some ways. And that's part of the reason why. I won't say he's officially blacklisted, but he's definitely not getting any jobs and nobody's interested in him. And I think it's really more that there's a risk of having Cousins on your team for toxic as a teammate. It doesn't outweigh like the possible rewards of getting him to actually play at a high level on the court. So that I think that's where it's at. Mike's saying, not gonna lie, the current team has a little KC imprint at the moment. Yes, this year was tough, but it doesn't take away from the value built in our players. Fred, Spicy, and Pirtle only had 2 years with Casey, and OG had 1 year. Yeah, I mean, this is all fair and fine. But, Jakob got a lot of his development from Popovich. Like I said, I'm going to stand on this. You're right, Mike, to a degree, but also he's not developing bench or lower players on the rotation as well as he's really giving these main guys stuff like that. Cool Cat saying, Lex, I was not talking about his recent interview because I have not watched it as yet. He has called fans dumb already. Laugh out loud. Learn the business strategy from LeBron. Okay, yeah, I do. I think you're right. He did call the fans dumb at some point this season. You're exactly right. But in some ways, I know he's not talking to us. Like, do you feel like he was talking to you when he said that? I don't feel like he was talking to me. I know who he was talking to. We know who he was talking to when he said that. We know. We don't even have to say their names. We know who he's talking to. He's talking to his haters. He's not talking to us, his fans, his people that support him. So, in some ways he's right. They are dumb. And so I can stand behind him on this. Okay. I'm glad you clarified though, because he didn't say it in this interview, but you're right. He did say it at some point this season. He did call the fans dumb. And you're right. You're right. I did forget that he did say that. Shir Khan saying Koloko is well on his way on becoming third string backup next year. Maybe we can get Jakob's backup with the Flynn trade. Can't get another first round pick for him, but another prospect would be a nice addition. I like having three centers. I really do like this idea. And if we can get another center this summer, that'd be fantastic. But if we don't, that's fine too. We can continue how we have. I mean, it would be nice and be insurance. But if we don't do that, that's not a mandatory thing to do this summer. I think that it's much more mandatory that we increase our 3-point shooting and improve there. So a fun guy saying Fred said there's nothing a fan could tell him. He's basically saying he knows every analytical metric, statistic, data. That's impossible. That was my point, bro. Not about smart or not. Well, why do you think he doesn't know all that stuff? He has the NOAA system. He has more analytics that are inside that we don't even get to see. The whole team has analytic people that are on the staff, and they can inform Fred. Those are the correct team people that can talk to him about analytics, not Samson Folk, not the articles, because I'm going to tell you right now, the analytics within house, within the team on the coaching staff are way better than the analytics that those guys are running at Raptors Republic. So he gets it in house. That's why he doesn't need to listen to the outside, because he can get all that analytical information from Nate Bjorngren, from John Goodwillie. He can get that stuff from them. He doesn't need to get it from Orrin Weisfeld or Samson Folk. He gets it from Nate Bjorngren. So that's what I'm saying. The metrics and the analytics are in-house also, and the coaches give them to the players. They get report cards, remember? After every single game, every single practice, they give report cards to the players, and it tells every single time they missed a defensive assignment, every single time they made a mistake, every single time they did something good, and they get graded every single game. So they're getting actual analytical report cards after every game, feedback of what they're doing. So yeah, he cannot be told anything by anybody outside of the team. He gets everything he needs to know from within the team. And do you understand that point? The analytics are in the team also, because we have coaches that take care of that. Fiercely saying the Hornets commentators are gold, really fun to listen to. Well, that's because that's Daddy Dell. That is Daddy Dell. That's Dell Curry, a great Raptor legend. The father of Steph Curry is calling the game, and he is definitely a Raptor lover too. He does not hate us. He's definitely he's more a Hornets guy, but he's definitely on our family too. Dell Curry is a great 3-point shooter in the history of the Raptors. I had his poster on my wall in 2000, 2001. I had a great Dell Curry poster that they gave to the fans on the way out. That was one of the coolest things about working at the Air Canada Center in when they first opened it. They had all the free giveaways that you give people on the way out, like the T-shirts, the bobbleheads, the posters, the any kind of things like that flag behind me. That's something that I got after one of the games. You get all this free swag, and I got all these really cool Raptors posters at this time. They were orange background. You guys may remember them if you were getting them around time. I had Dell, I had Muggsy, I had Mo Pete, I had JYD, and they were just all around my room at that time. Like all these Raptors posters that I had all in a row. They were so awesome. I remember them. I don't know what happened to them. I wish I still have them, but I don't. They probably got all ripped up or something. Duke's saying, this is where I trust Nurse to make on-the-fly adjustments in playoff to overcome bias officiating. The town is there to bang with Philly, Bucks, and Boston. This is one thing that they still respect Nick for the most, is his in-game, like being able to quickly move, to be able to adjust very fast, and that he's still counted on by his peers in the league as being one of the best in-game adjustment coaches in the league. There's a weird GM survey that came out, and Aaron Rose is posting it again and talking about the results of it and how the season went. And in some ways, Nick is not getting the shine that he should in the coaching categories as he did like a year before, that he's not looked at in the same esteem as he was before because of some of the things that have happened this year, just so you know. Shere Khan saying Boston at Philly today for the battle of the second spot. Philly rematch should be fun, but I would much rather want Celtics matchup because I have a feeling OG, Scotty, and Precious can lock down Tatum, Brown, and limit the Williamses. Yeah, I love a rematch with Boston. Listen, I'm not afraid of any of those big three. If we end up with Milwaukee, fine. We end up with Philly, fine. We end up with Boston. There's all good perks and fun. We just want competition, and we want to be in the playoffs. We don't want to die in the play-in. Dying in the play-in is not going to be fun. We want to get in the playoffs. We want to get a series. Leslie's saying, I have to be honest, Lex. I'm not going to read the next part. That was the most depressing shit I've ever listened to. Grateful to be in this family. Okay, she went somewhere. She went to see how bad it was, and she found out. She found out. I mean, the dude was live streaming yesterday. He's so mad at Fred. He's so mad that he's live streaming his anger about him. It's insane. It's crazy. And yeah, Leslie, I'm going to start doing this rule. You really have had a huge impact on me in the last couple of days with your advice about stopping the hate and not talking about these people. So some of these new things I'm going to start trying to do. And we're not bringing him up anymore. But I appreciate you going there and seeing what happened. And then also, I'm going to try and get rid of that H word also, just because it really did strike me what you said. Cool Cat saying, I think the NBA reputation can be a slippery slope because the strategy should remain family and community focused to attract young fans all the time. That's how the sport keeps growing. Yeah, I can be behind that. Some people have said they're worried about the NBA not having superstars for the future. They're idiots. They'll always be able to manufacture some young guys into being like golden boys and superstars for the future. The league will be in good hands. I'm not worried about that. I don't know. If Fred's going to turn somebody off by calling them dumb, then so be it. They're not going to like him anyways because they don't really know him. And it is what it is. I mean, he's allowed to say what he says, and I'm glad he's outspoken and he's honest. It's much better than kind of like the opposite where he could be like a liar and kind of a snake. I'd much rather have him be straight up and be who he is with his personality otherwise. So I'm very happy he's straightforward and that he's outspoken. Randolph saying, game day, beloved Raptor Freaks, most informative gang. Let's go get this win. Yes, Randolph Phillips, always good to see you check in with us. Wow, we're almost to 3 hours. I'm going to have to wrap this thing up soon. Smooth saying, I think Otto is a traditional type. He's been injured so much, though. I think with the change coming next season, he's a key player. He killed the Raps in 2014-15. Yeah, he's been a good player for a long time, but I worry that he's near the end of his career, that in some ways he's doing an Olajuwon to us right now. But who knows? We'll have to see. I want to give him another chance to show up next season and actually earn his paycheck and get out there and do some productive stuff for us. G's saying he already said he is a basketball elitist. He studies the game and values certain people's opinion. It's honest, maybe too honest. He has had people tell him he will never play ball as a youth and people not believe in him. I believe he has had to adapt a certain mentality to push ahead. Well, that's what I'm saying. He can't. Why would he give audience or credence to people that have hated him and told him he couldn't do things? And then like he proved them wrong. Why would he believe these people? And maybe he just doesn't want any of that kind of noise. We don't understand how difficult this path for Fred has been. I mean, him telling us that at 14, somebody told him he would never become anything. And instead of him being like, I'm going to listen to him and just be a horrible basketball player and never dream of the NBA, instead, he went the opposite and made all of his dreams come true. That tells you a lot about who he is, that he's stubborn and that he doesn't want to listen to people, even if they tell him he can't do it. And I love that about him. I think that that's such a powerful, inspiring leader, a way to be, and that people should look up to him and look at him as a role model. Seriously, he's a great role model. People have said that. Alvin said that in the broadcast. He said, if I have a young person in my family, one of my kids, I will tell them, look at Fred. He's a great role model for you to follow. And that's Alvin saying that. Alvin knows what he's talking about. So I think that G's exactly right. He is an elitist, and he should be, because he's at the top of his craft. He's one of the most respected NBA players in the entire world. And his peers respect him. Coaches respect him. And people that know basketball respect him because they know he's a very good player and he knows his shit. And in some ways, he has every single right to be a basketball elitist as far as like information and knowing basketball, and whether he wants to listen to other people or not, it's a waste of his time. He has so much in his life. He has young children and he has a professional basketball career to run and do. And does he have time for jabronis and listen to their 2 cents? No, he doesn't. And I'm glad he doesn't have time for all that, because he shouldn't. He really shouldn't. Mike's saying Otto was supposed to be a spacing power forward center. What? Power forward center, in a sense, multi-position guy. Used his similar as OG with the spacing, with like guard threes over the arc. What? He would have been key to us. He did play center for Golden State. Yeah, I don't like that. No, fuck that. We don't want Otto playing center. That's crazy talk. He's a swing man. He's a guard forward. He's not a power forward center. That's ridiculous, Mike. I would hate it if he's playing low post defense for us. That's the worst place you can put him. He needs to be like a slasher scorer, kind of like 3 or 4. At the highest, the 4. But I don't even like playing him at 4. He should be the 3. The 3 is the best position for Otto. Yeah, that's crazy talk. Even if Golden State played him at center, they're playing some crazy ass small ball lineups out there because they have Steph and Clay and they can get away with it. We don't need to be doing that. Trust me, we do not. Monique is saying, I don't use Twitter, but I use it like you to do Raptors update in my content, Lex. Anytime. W stream, always Lex. Go Raptors, togetherness at all times. Positive, everybody. Positive. I love it, Monique. Thank you. And yeah, you don't need to go in there either. Waste your time, Monique. Seriously. You get your information. You watch with your own 2 eyes. You go and find the content that you want to watch and forget about all the Twitter noise. Trust me, you're not missing anything. Jimmy's saying majority of these fans probably can't even hit a 3, laughing my ass off, but they feel they can talk up on Fred. I know. That's what I'm saying. These motherfuckers probably couldn't hit an NBA 3 if they tried. They'd probably be like, that's what we're trying to illustrate today with Fred's point, is that y'all don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You may have shot hoops with your cousin when you were young and you bombed threes from your driveway and you had but it was not the same thing. Trust me. And even if you did play in high school and you had some success, well, did you play in the bright lights of the NBA with the crowd and everybody up on close on you and how pressurized that situation is? You have no idea how difficult it is to play at the level of the NBA with the bright lights around you. That is part of the adjustment as being a rookie, is you got to get used to the bright lights and everybody's eyes on you. And in some ways you could get out of your own head just because of the stress and pressure of the idea that millions of people are watching you and scrutinizing you and in your face and talking to you at the court and yelling at you. And go to Philadelphia and play a game there against the 76ers and see what you got to deal with there. People do have no idea realistically what Fred VanVleet has to do. And that's why what he's saying is exactly right. These people couldn't hit a 3 themselves to save them lives. What the fuck are they going to tell Fred or teach him? Seriously. Sheer Khan saying, we want Chicago to beat Atlanta and both teams losing the rest of the way. That's perfect. I love that. We can't have them hanging around 500 for us, have a leg up on the 8th spot. Have a feeling Miami is going to drop, catch them on a losing skid. I hope so. Miami could drop a little bit more still, and that will help things. But man, it's such a cloudy situation with just a few games to go. It's pretty exciting, But I like the fact that the Raptors hopefully can control their own destiny. You guys got to win as much as possible. We beat Boston twice in Boston. Hoo-hoo-hoo! Party time. Excellent. Let's do that. I'm all about that. Yeah, Trevor's saying that his comment was for the fans. All right, I appreciate all the clarification you made. Trevor J's a fantastic newer. He's been actually around for a little bit. I remember he was here last season also. Fun guy saying, yeah, Fred is my guy. There are times when I'm disappointed in him, but he's me looking in the mirror, the composure, hard knocks, grind. Can't hate on him how the fan base hates on him with personal insults. Nah, yeah, it's what's worth it, man. This man's heard it all himself already his whole entire life. Everybody's told him he's too short. Everybody's told him he's not good enough. Everybody's told him you will never make anything out of yourself as a basketball player. Well, he proved all them wrong. He bet on himself for real. That is real shit. And he really did come through in amazing ways. He's had a storybook dream kind of life. He said yesterday, this was something I really love about what Fred said. He said, when I won the championship, it was way better than I even thought it would be. Like, I didn't even understand how crazy awesome it would be. And I felt it. And it was amazing. I didn't know that it would be so great. And he wants it back again. He wants that back so bad again. And that's what I want to hear from El Capitan, from the boy, from number 23, Frederico. Because that is the thing that lines up with me. That's the thing that lines up with Masai. The thirst, the need, they want for more Larry O'Briens coming to Toronto. And that's why he's on the same page with me. I love the man because he wants the same thing that I want, the same thing that Masai wants, the same thing that good, passionate, positive Raptor fans would want. And that's more championships in Toronto. Yeah, Smooth saying Rodgers has full ownership of the Jays. That's why. I know. It's exactly why. You know, in some ways, I'm like wondering, like, okay, Nick Nurse says this, and everybody's saying, oh, well, at least we can watch baseball now. And now they put like the ads on the basketball game, switch over to the other Sportsnet channel and watch the Blue Jays play. Instead of watching this NBA game, they're almost done and they're mid and they're not going anywhere. So why would you watch them? Go watch the baseball. That's, Fiercely saying, yes. I would also add the odds to the nuance component as we can never tell what will happen during a game. Every game is different. Injuries, adjustments to schemes can vary from team to team. The ref's whistle is different throughout the game at different times. Coaches do weird things. Players do weird things. People get hurt. Unfortunately, things happen during the game. And in the game, nuance can change. And sometimes it's really good to have somebody who has experience with the ever-changing parameters and settings on the game court, like Fred VanVleet. That his experience and savviness in that respect is much better than Scotty's at this point. And that in some ways, that is a reason why we need Fred and we need to value him, is because Scott doesn't have enough experience yet to fully understand a lot of the things that Fred already understands. Now, Scotty will get that stuff more and more over time, and he will become more savvy and more vet in those ways. But there's a lot of nuance and an unspoken kind of stuff that Fred knows way better than Scotty still at this point. And this is part of the whole Scott versus Fred thing that they don't talk about enough. Is that Scotty's still green in certain ways. He's fast tracking as a capable superstar that makes everybody around him better and being a playmaker. But that's really hard to do. And there's still a lot of scenarios and situations that Scotty has to be put in to learn from and make mistakes from that Fred has already learned from and knows not to do. And that's part of the difference in the two of them also. And whether we have one be the point guard or not, is that it's much more steady to be with Freddie. And it may be haughty to be with Scotty later on. But right now, it's much more steady to be with Freddie as far as point guard. Let's see. Shir Khan saying, we just got unlucky with Flynn Banton development. Flynn needed a big, yak that Toronto didn't have for pick and roll. Banton is like low-key Scotty backup that didn't work out, needed more playing time. Banton is still working out. It's not that he hasn't worked out. This year he's just been misused. Banton's awesome, and I have not given up on him. He's got a lot of time still to figure things out, and this summer will be very crucial for him. Watch. And then we'll see where he's at with the rotation next season at the start. So we'll see. I'm not giving up on Delano for sure. Now, Malachi, I don't know. I don't know where we are with him. It's really crazy. Duke saying development doesn't hang on Nurse only. Development is an organization structural thing. Regardless, the only player of worth that falls under Nurse's watch is Barnes, and he's looking good. Yeah, Yeah, I'm with that. I can get behind that. Mugarbe saying, I live in Edmonton and the Raptors is my team, win or lose. And the Leaf fans are the worst in all of sports. Mugarbe, I'm going to give you a dunk, man, because I like that statement because in some ways, you're exactly right. Are you an Oilers fan? I don't know, but I'm going to give you a dunk. You're getting your first dunk ever on the board because in some ways you dumped on the Leafs and you didn't need to, and I kind of like that. Yeah, you know what? I appreciate you being in Edmonton, holding it down. Now that we know we got somebody in Edmonton, we got more and more people in different spots. And that's what I like to hear. So I hope that the weather's good in Edmonton today, Mr. Lennon. And I appreciate your comment. You got a dunk for that. In some ways, you're right. The Leaf fans are very bad and they're annoying. And they're a part of the reason why Raptors Nation's toxic, is because there's a lot of Leaf fans that are also Raptor fans. And as I said, they treat the Raptors like they treat the Leafs. And that is part of what this phenomenon is also. Like if you go talk to some of the really critical people of the Raptors, ask them if they're a big Leafs fan also. And you'll find out that sometimes that's a part of the reason why they are the way they are. Mike's saying, I can agree. Some of the bench pieces could be more developed, but there are things for understanding how it happened. Masai said he understood that the top 8 players needed to be focused on a lot. Yeah, we'll see. I just want better results from our bench. I want better development for Koloko. I want better development for Delano. Smooth saying is more revenue for Rogers if people watch the Jays. Right now, with the Raps and the Leafs, revenue is shared with Bell. Yeah, yeah. Well, I totally get why they would position the Jays to be more in the forefront and advertising and encouraging people to switch from the basketball game to the baseball game. But it's something we talked about this whole season is that in some ways Rodgers is not good for the Raptors because they very much have a vested interest in the Blue Jays being more popular and getting a bigger pie of this disposable income of sports fans in Toronto. And that in some ways they are in a direct competition, all three of those sports, the hockey and the basketball and the baseball. And in some ways they don't. They do very much slight the Raptors on TSN and Rogers for hockey and baseball, and it's very calculated. It very much is. Wayne saying, "Hell no, those guys were ready to go from 905. There was no rawness in them like Precious. The main core owes their progress to being developed before, not during Nick Nurse's tenure." I don't know. I think Mike is right though, because like Casey was gone at a certain point, and a lot of the people that have done stuff now are basically under Nick. So I don't know, Wayne. I think I got to go with Mike on this kind of, but I don't think that Nick has been totally good for development for sure. Fun guy saying, I feel like Jerry Stackhouse developed our guys though. I mean, he did develop those 905 guys early, like Fred and Pascal and Jakob. But he only had them for like a year or two. So in some ways, that doesn't totally check out. Trevor's saying those are the fans who play outside of the school court to try to tell an NBA player how to play. yeah, they're playing pickup ball at a school out in Scarborough, and they're trying to tell Fred how to play. They're making bank shots off of a corner wall that could not be done in other places, and they're telling them how to play. Let Me Cook saying, Raptor Freak, did you watch WrestleMania this weekend? I only saw the Brock Lesnar versus Omos match. No, I don't watch current wrestling. I haven't watched it in 20 years. I think the last time I watched wrestling regularly was in 2003, right around when they switched, they got the F out of it and they put the E on the end of it. So no, I haven't watched it, but I do kind of keep in the loop with what's kind of going on. I heard that the best match this weekend was Rhea Ripley with Charlotte Flair, and that was the most excitement. And I'm also hearing a lot of people were let down that Cody Rhodes did not beat Roman Reigns. That Triple H, it's so dumb that they do a press conference after WrestleMania, and Triple H is basically saying, we don't want the story to end here. We want to have the continuation of the next chapter. In some ways, you want that payoff on the biggest show, and everybody wanted Cody to win. And you kind of fuck that up. A lot of people are upset that Cody didn't beat Roman at WrestleMania. And then I heard that Raw was awful last night, that a lot of fans today are very upset that Raw was so shitty the day after WrestleMania. So there's your little bit of wrestling. There you go. Let me cook. Philadelphia fan. Good luck with the Boston Celtics tonight. You guys go get them tonight. You go Sixers. Space Cadet saying, Fred said people are stupid when he was asked about being surprised by the Hornets playing really good basketball and they beat the Mavericks twice. Yeah, that's actually the context of when he said it. You're right, Space Cadet, because they don't understand. Like I'm saying, oh, the Hornets are really shitty today. Well, Fred may tell me I'm stupid. No, they're not. They're a very young team and they're inexperienced, but they're dangerous and they're talented. And you need to take them more seriously, Lex. That may be what Fred tells me. He said, "Don't be stupid, Lex. Don't be dumb and mistake the Hornets as being a pushover." Because they're definitely not. And that's kind of what he was saying when he meant what he's saying. Space Cadets clarified it. Thank you. Duke's saying Moneyball equals analytics, typing error. I was trying to say Moneyball does not take heart, desire, and IQ into account. Okay, you were saying that it did, but now, yeah, you're exactly right. The stats just don't take into account a lot of intangibles that happen on the court. The nuance, as we've said over and over again. There's a lot of nuance on the court that stats just don't add up to or capture. That there's a lot of things that Scotty does on the court that won't be in the box score that are very helpful and unsung. And a lot of the players are doing stuff like that. Shirkan saying almost 40 people in the chat. Let's smash the like button for the algorithm. Let's get this one. First one was a trap game. And now we know the Charlotte G League team is going to come out strong for next year's contracts. Yeah. And we've got a ref team that is not very nice tonight also. So it's going to be a little bit of a different challenge tonight, but hopefully just the same outcome. Mike's saying, I can understand there is uncertainty on who actually developed this part and that, but the facts are our main players have had crazy jumps under his coaching. I think people can have their own opinion. All right, we'll allow for that. I will agree with Mike that he's done a good job developing the core main starters, but not a good job with the bench and the bit players. So we will give him Nick that, but we won't give him the other stuff. How about that? Is that a good compromise, everybody? That we can say that he's done a good job developing Siakam, Scotty, Fred, OG, but not necessarily a good job developing Koloko, Delano, Malachi, something like that. Fun guy saying, yes, I got you, Lex. I agree with that. I surprisingly flew past that aspect. Of course, these billion-dollar franchises have everything in-house anyways. Analytics. Very true, Lex. I agree. I mean, look at the Noah. The Noah is telling them every little thing about their shots. Is there anybody at home that has a Noah system and has access to them shooting at practice every day to tell them how to improve their shot? No. Nobody at Raptors Republic has that. So they are not going to be able to tell them as well as Nate Bjorngren with the printout from the Noah system at the OVO Center. That is my point there. And I'm glad you heard it and you got it. Fun guy, you're the best, man. You go, Mississauga. Paul B's here. Good to see Paul B holding it down in the state of Wisconsin for the Raptor Freak Nation. We got people all over. We got people in enemy lines. Mr. Paul B there in Wisconsin. Gonna need another beatdown tonight. This is their last easy game of the season. Only tough competition from here on out. Need to win them all. You go, Paul B. I love that those words of encouragement and gumption to come in and take care of business against the slouch team tonight. And then it gets harder and we need to rise to the occasion. That's right. Eye of the tiger, baby. Taking the rise up to the occasion of our rivals. That's what we got to do this week. Yeah. Leslie's saying, let's get this win tonight. We can do this. Go Raptors. I love the encouragement. Randolph saying, Chris started a scholarship program for young people from the Caribbean. That is great. Thank you, Chris Boucher. Fantastic. St. Lucia's Chris Boucher, fantastic stuff. And speaking of the Caribbean, my dear Adriana got on a plane this morning and has flown to St. Vincent's today. And I'm hoping she's okay and safe. She's with her friend Wendy. She's going to be in the islands herself for a couple weeks, getting that sunshine and warmth down in the islands of St. Vincent with her friend Wendy. I hope you have a safe trip, Adriana, and you have a great, fantastic time in the beach, in the sunshine, away from Toronto right now. So you be happy down there, Adriana. So yeah, Jimmy's saying go Raps. I'm all about that. Fiercely saying I'm hoping Otto didn't finesse us in order to accommodate his wife having the baby and stay near her family. Not trying to gossip, but it looks fishy. But then again, he got injured, so we got to take him at his word. Let's hope that he shows up next season healthy and we get a full season out of him next year. That'd be fantastic. That would make this season a little bit better. Especially if we can get that finally, the addition of Otto in there. I know I wonder about this too a little bit. Did he Elijah on us? Did you Elijah on us, Otto? We'll have to see. Mike's saying real development takes a lot of things working together. Nick is a part in the development, but a lot of things went right from the other stuff needed. Mentors, skill coach, etc. It takes a village. Rico Hines, Brian Macon, yeah, there's a lot of different people involved in all the different aspects of developing these guys themselves on their own time during the summer and getting better themselves. Their drive to get better during the summer, in fact, sometimes gets the most credit for leaps and jumps in their game is putting in the work in the off season. And in some ways, Nick's not even involved in that. So, Brian Macon and Rico Hines with Pascal Siakam, they get a little bit more shine in that kind of way. Sheer Khan is saying, great stream yet again. Came in late because busy at work, but always fun. Did we do the mascot matchup yet? No, we didn't. So we'll do that right now, Sheer Khan, since you brought it up. Raps at 40 wins was unthinkable just a month ago. So proud of our team. Love the core. We the North. You go. Sheer Khan is just like a sunshine. He's just like the epitome of sunshine in his comments. And we love you for that radiant, beaming positivity that you bring every day, Sheer Khan. No, I did not do the real mascot matchup, but I better do it now before I get to 3 hours. All right, the last time we saw the mascot, he's in the convenience store working. He's been there for a few months. He's trying to live on the down low in a small community and like just kind of blend in and just not wanting any attention. Well, the police have had a sting operation watching him and trying to figure out if that's him, the wanted Raptor from the incidents before. And Officer Brothers is sitting in the car in the parking lot in a plainclothes car and in plain clothes watching the Raptor work. He's pretty sure it's him. It's the right Raptor and the one from before. And he wants to go in and suss this out. So Officer Brothers decides it's time to go into the store and see what's going on here. So he comes into the store and he acts like he's a customer. He goes over to the soda section. He gets like a pop. He gets some candy. And he comes up to the counter. And the Raptor, he's kind of not wearing a disguise, but he's wearing like a hat. He's kind of got things up. You can tell he's not a human. He's a Raptor. And there's not many of them around there. So in some ways, he's not very good at hiding because they can tell who he is. And well, the Officer Brothers is kind of like, I know Officer Foster wants me to take this guy in, but in some ways I feel bad for him because I don't really feel like he was at fault at the beach. It really was the yak who was causing all the trouble, like pooping in the water. And then the yak kind of threw Officer Malloy into the ditch. And then it wasn't really this guy's fault. So in some ways, he's kind of on the side of the Raptor, even though he's been assigned to kind of like try and take him down. So he's standing at the counter, and this is very Tarantino kind of scene. He's kind of like, yeah, I like these things here. And the Raptor's like, would you like anything else? He said, well, actually, I would. And then he's like, and he's like, I know who you are. And the Raptor's like, whoa, okay. I'm just a dude working in the store. What do you mean? He's like, no, I know who you are, and I know what's going on. And the Raptor's kind of a little bit freaking out. This sting operation is in full effect. What's going to happen? Is Officer Brothers going to fulfill what Officer Foster wanted him to do and take this dude to jail? Now, Officer Malloy is on his way to the store, and maybe Officer Brothers could go two ways. He could either feel bad for the Raptor and say, this guy's an innocent Raptor, and I don't need to go and take him downtown because I understand the truth about this situation. Or will I follow my dirty cop partners and go and take him in as an example because they have a vendetta against him? Well, he has to decide, and he has to decide quick because Officer Malloy is coming to the store as backup and to arrest him. So is Officer Brothers going to put the kibosh on the Raptor and tell him, we know you are, you're coming with us? Or is he going to do something very special and nice to help the Raptor get out of this? We'll have to find out next time whether the sting operation is a sting operation, or will Officer Brothers have a kind heart and let him go and cover for him? We'll have to find out next time on the Real Mascot Matchup. Officer Malloy is on his way to the store to help reinforce Officer Brothers in arresting the Raptor at the convenience store. There you go. There's your Real Mascot Matchup. Hopefully you enjoy the saga. So weird. It is so weird. Wayne saying, never played basketball in the Caribbean. Went to the park with my son when he was younger and was shooting hoops. Took me 5 hours out there before hitting one. My pride wouldn't let me leave until. Oh, that's an awesome story. I love that story by Wayne. I get it, man. I get it. Listen, anybody who's played hoops and enjoyed it, you can get in that feel and that woo, where you can make crazy shots and get in the zone. It's fun. And it's, when you get that feeling, there's different levels of knowledge, of nuance of basketball. But at each level of height that you get higher and higher, high school, college, G League, pros, playoff team, It's gets amped up each time and ratcheted up. And we just don't understand the pressure and how good you have to be to excel at each one of those levels going up. At one level, you could get to a certain level, but the next level, you're done. You're not good enough to get any higher than that level. That's what I'm saying. These guys that rise to the top, the cream of the crop, they are like that. Fred VanVleet is a cream of the crop, and he wasn't supposed to be. He made his own path. We need to respect that. Duke saying, also when it comes to development, take a look at the coaches the NBA took from us. Yeah, as far as our assistant coaches, for sure. Jama, Patrick Mutombo, Chris Finch. Nate Bjorgen left for a little while. That's true. There's been really good coaches we've had underneath that have gone other places. That's a good thing to talk about. Fiercely saying, our guys are kind of lucky. Russell Westbrook and Kyrie seem to be the on-court targets when other fans shout at them, many times causing the fan to be ejected. Yeah, and it's totally out of pocket, talking about like stillborn birth childs from their history and their family, yelling at them for like really personal family stuff, not even gambling stuff. Some of the stuff has been really gross. And the stuff that happened with Russell in LA with the fans there and his family sitting at courtside and that issues with that, that's what I'm saying. It could be worse. And everything's on a sliding scale of where you kind of get enmity from the fans. But if you see somebody like a nice guy like Jakob Poeltl or somebody like Chris Boucher getting such a heinous text, personal DM, you understand if nice guys like that are getting it, think about the people that are villains, the people that, hey, think about all the stuff that Dylan Brooks gets right now. Think about all that and look at all the things that, like, look at how that backlash is against that LSU player that did this. Like, people are coming at her like crazy right now. And it's so messed up. There's so many crazy things about fans interacting with sports athletes at this point that are kind of messed up. And in some ways, the fans need to be checked. It's not the players. It's the fans that need to be checked and need to stop their behavior. It's out of control. Duke saying, I'm a big Leafs fan, and I admit I soured on them on occasion, especially after losing the Habs a few years back. However, year after year, I'm right back with my support. Listen, I don't want to say that I'm anti-Leafs because I am very much for the Leafs, and I want the Leafs to win. But I want positive, like Leaf fans. I want fans that are not cynics and that are weighed down and all this stuff like that. It's obvious that you got to be cynical about them just because of their track record and their history and just their defeats in first round are so deflating. And once again, they're going to play the Lightning in the first round this year. Oh my gosh, that's just torturous for Leaf fans because in some ways the Lightning are like way better than their record. And in some ways we're the higher seed now, but we have such trauma dealing with the Lightning in the first round. In some ways, the seeding for the NHL playoffs isn't fair. Because of the divisions and which teams are in which, the Leafs end up playing a really tough first round opponent every year, and that's not necessarily right. And so, listen, I want the Leafs to be successful. And if any of you guys are Leaf fans, also, I don't want to insult you guys. I'm just saying that there's an aspect of the Leaf Nation that does bleed into the Raptors Nation that's very toxic. And I definitely don't want to personally like point any of you guys out. You guys can be good, positive Leaf fans or even toxic Leaf fans, but still be a positive Raptor fan. And I'm fine with that. And yeah, I don't want to turn anybody off and in some ways, like, it's not that I hate the Leafs. I did hate the Leafs about 20 years ago when I worked for the company. I hated the Leafs at that time because they were like the spoiled kid. They got everything in MLSE. And the Raptors were like the second child that got like the hand-me-downs and didn't get anything nice for themselves. And I had like very much, it's not an inferiority complex, but like a jealousy complex because I saw within the company as an employee of MLSE how the Leafs got so much favoritism and everybody's like Leaf, Leaf, Leaf this and no attention for the Raptors. They were always an afterthought. And I hated that then. And this is around 99, 2000 when we just got Vince. And so it's different. I'm more loving towards Leaf Nation at this point than I was when I worked for them. And I have more respect for people being Leaf fans and stuff. My father was a huge Leaf fan when he was younger. I often tell people that it's in my family to be a Leaf fan. He went to Maple Leaf Gardens in the 60s when they were winning Stanley Cups. My dad was a Leaf fan, living here in Leslieville and going to the Maple Leaf Gardens in the 50s and the 60s. So I do have a history of being a fan of their team. It's just that they turned me off because they took the fans for granted. They were like, we will take the money because y'all will spend it and sell the tickets and all the merchandise. We'll make tons of money, but we don't care about putting a product out there that it will actually win because we know you're going to get your money anyway. And there was a lot of that kind of feeling about the Leafs franchise for a while there. But now they seem more committed to actually wanting to win. Well, then I can get more behind them. But ultimately, I'm actually a Winnipeg Jets fan. And it's really because I have family there, and their story of their franchise and them losing it and getting it back is an underdog story that I really love. And there's a family members that really, really love the Jets. And that is so in a way, they're kind of my NHL team at this point. Fiercely saying during a game, Matt Devlin made an announcement to watch the Jays. I rolled my eyes. They could do it via commercials, not live. When the announce following NBA games, it makes more sense. Yeah, it is what it is. It's Rogers' directives. And it is what it is. They want to go with their bread and butter. Leslie's saying at Fun Guy, Stackhouse did win the G League championship for the 905. You're right. And then he went and he's been coaching in college basketball. But some people are saying, is he going to circle back and be back in the NBA now at this point? I don't know. Jerry may be very happy somewhere wherever he is right now. And it may not be in the plans to come here. I thought they were going to hire Jerry when they hired Nick. When they fired Dwayne Casey, I thought that Jerry Stackhouse was going to be the next coach of the Raptors. That is exactly what I thought that summer. And then when that didn't happen, they hired Nick. I was surprised by it. I was kind of shocked. I was like, wait, you're just going to bring up one of the assistants from below? And I didn't get it. But then I started to get it when I saw how genius Nick was as he started coaching. In fact, when he had his first week of coaching the NBA, he was undefeated. Like he was 7-0 starting his NBA career. He came in like a ball of fire and kicked ass with the Raptors right away. So I was happy with that decision afterwards. But Stackhouse was the guy I was picking at that time in the summer of 2018 to take over for the Raptors as the head coach. Nameless saying, glad I can join. Better late than never. I'll have to recap later. Oh, buongiorno, Nameless. So happy to see you. And thank you guys for not writing any more comments in because I do want to finish this up. Let's see. Mike saying it took Michael Jordan multiple coaches to develop into a championship player. The coach is a real factor in things, not the complete factor, though. So I can admit Flynn, Banton, Koloko didn't get enough. Yeah. And that's something that Masai said and called them out for, is not developing those guys enough. Mike Mo is saying, we are all with you, Jeff Dowtin, tonight. Go, Jeff. Do you. You be you. Yeah. And W Stream, thank you, Mike. W Stream to you, Logical Raptors Fanatic. Check out Logical Raptors Fanatics channel. Fantastic Raptors content, fully endorsed by the Raptor Freak for sure. And Leslie saying, hey, Lex, do you think fans should be banned, fined, or both for such bad behavior? Yes, and yes. I think that, all right, first of all, in-house, they have it very clear now that if you are saying inappropriate things to the players on the court, or you throw anything, or you're threatening, or you're out of control in certain ways around the court, they will throw you out immediately. In fact, when we went to the game the other day, they had flyers in the seats explaining this very clearly, that if you are out of pocket, expect to get tossed. And I think that's the right thing to do, because in some ways there's safety concerns. The players have proximity to the fans because of the way the basketball is set up. And that in some ways, they really have to watch out for a crazy ass fan trying to do something crazy ass in the game. And it's not even protesters chaining themselves to the stanchion to make a protest for PETA or something. This is fans where they could be so delusional because of money lost and so in a bad place that they do something really bad judgment and they do something violent on the court. You know, that is the kind of thing that I worry about for you, Adam Silver, with this kind of stuff. So they need to make very specific examples of people. You know, some people have joked on this channel, Lex, when you go to the game, you should streak and run around the court naked. And I'm like, no way, dude, because you do that, you're banned from the arena for life. Seriously. Some of these people that are getting in trouble and getting escorted out of the game for taunting Kyrie are being banned for life from ever coming back to the games ever again. That is what they'll do. They'll ban them from being, and it's not even just the Scotiabank Arena. If you get banned from the Scotiabank Arena at a Raptors game, you're banned from BMO Field. You're banned from every single MLSE property where they have events. So it's not, you know, you really got to be careful because you could be losing everything. And that's why the stakes are high. If you're a real fan and you care about that, you don't want to cross those lines. But if you're a fucking crazy degenerate gambler, and you may, and well, you get what you get. You get prison time. Maybe you get banned for life from being able to come to Raptor games. And I totally agree with all that. Now, as far as the stuff on social media, like the message that Chris got or the stuff they're doing to Jakob, I would definitely love more cyberbullying legislation where police can come after people for being threatening or being insulting in those kind of ways online towards public figures. That in some ways, not, I mean, specifically the players, but in general to people in general too. If there's somebody harassing someone or making threats towards someone online, they should be looked into. In today's day and age, trolling is maybe funny, but there's a lot of like real people going out and shooting up schools and talking about it online. There's a lot of people saying crazy out of pocket shit on there, and it does become a reality. So they have to check into every single situation. And if there's a fan out there that's online that's actively going after specific players and harassing them through social media, they should be investigated. They should maybe get a warning. They should maybe get prosecuted if it's really egregious. They need to know that there are real ramifications for their online behavior if they're acting in very, very ugly ways that are awful. And in some ways, I wish they would do that. Hopefully, there's some department in the Raptors organization that's like John Attilia. John Attilia is security in person, right on the ground with people around him. Well, maybe there's security for the Raptors, cyber security. And maybe there needs to be somebody hired by MLSE to go and protect the players on their social media from these kind of things. That there needs to be one person with a job description that goes to Jakob's IG and reads all the comments from everybody slandering him or doing whatever they're doing and figures out, well, in this case, maybe we need to prosecute them and we need to get the police involved and show that we mean business on this shit. Because in some ways, we're in the Wild West in a lot of things in life these days. The internet and social media is the Wild West. We haven't sussed a whole bunch of different things out. And there's a lot of crazy things that can happen out of pocket all of a sudden. And we need to suss out the rules, the guidelines, and the way things should be. And maybe this is where we start. Toxic attacking of players in DMs on social media needs to be investigated and prosecuted if there's some sort of legal like problem with what they're doing. And I totally behind all of that, Leslie. I think it is very much, if they're not already doing it, MLSE, you need this department. You need a social media department that's helping the players with the fans, especially with the betting now. Seriously. Monique saying 1 month until the WNBA in Toronto. Pumped, anyone? I think we are. We sold that game out and people are ready for the WNBA in Toronto. I love it. All right, let me wrap it up real quick. Injuries for tonight. Will Barton is probable with his ankle. He should be back. Hopefully he'll play. Gary Trent Jr. is questionable today. It's less likely Gary will be playing tonight. Nick Nurse has had enough. He's wondering why the hell his guys aren't playing. He wants people out there. He needs them playing. OG Anunoby is questionable for today, his ankle. We know about that. If OG doesn't play today, I'm not going to be upset. I think that it actually may be really smart if we rest him today so that we have him on the second night of a back-to-back. This is another thing that may be a factor tonight because it is a back-to-back with Boston playing them tomorrow. There may be guys sitting for the Raptors today because they don't want them to play 2 nights in a row on a back-to-back. So we need to be ready for more scratches other than the guys I just listed, possibly tonight. And that may be fine because, like I said, Charlotte has nobody. They don't even list their injuries on ESPN because there's too many of them. No data available because there's too much data. And on the data, it's saying right now, Terry Rozier out, Kelly Oubre out, LaMelo Ball out, Gordon Hayward out, PJ Washington out, Dennis Smith Jr. out, Mark Williams day-to-day and probably out also. So pretty much their top 7 players are out, and they're very much scraping the bottom of their bench. So we need to beat them. Now, they sent one of the worst ref crews we've had all season to Charlotte for the second game. Ed Malloy is our crew chief. We hate Ed Malloy. Wait, we dislike Ed Malloy. He's a ref hit job artist. He specifically cost us 2 games this season on a record himself, and somebody we don't like. We don't like Marat Kogut either, the magician. He is the second ref. And then CJ Washington, who we've not seen ref the whole entire year, is finally coming to referee a game for us right at the end of the season, but he is not a friendly ref to us. In fact, Marat Kogut and CJ Washington both favor the Hornets over us statistically, historically. And Ed Malloy is the most friendly ref for us tonight. That's how crazy it is. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed the stream today. Let's get this W tonight. Let's have 40 wins at the end of the night, Raptors. Let's hope the Bulls can beat the Hawks tonight. That would be a fantastic thing to help us get into that 8th spot, DeMar. Please, DeMar, help us out. Come on, DeMar DeRozan, Raptor legend. We love you up here, number 10. We're going to put your jersey in the rafters when you retire up here in Toronto. Please help us out and beat the Atlanta Hawks tonight. And Raptors, don't play with your food. Be serious. Don't take them lightly. Be very businessman-like and get out there and play very well. Guys on the bench, if you get a chance to get some major burn tonight on the court, you take advantage of it and shine. Make yourself look good. Show that we have developed y'all a little bit, Koloko and Delano and Malachi, and make some big shots and kick the Hornets' ass. Because in some ways, I don't want our starters playing very much tonight because we need them rested for tomorrow against the Celtics. So hopefully we can limit the minutes on the starters, maybe even not play some of them, and really get some good extra development time for the bench guys and the guys who have not played as much this season. That would be smart, Nick. But measure it and balance it with making sure you get that W, because that's the stat that ultimately matters. Thank you all for being here with me. Once again, such a love fest. We're going to exonerate and get rid of that word hate on this channel. I really like this idea, Leslie, and we're going to go forward with it. I really do believe in it. And I think it'll be a good way to distinguish ourselves from the rest of YouTube and Raptors land, that we are the positive place and that we are standing tall in positivity for the Raptors, no matter what. All right, y'all. Have a great day. Do your day like the Raptors would and Raptorize your day and do it with excellence and come correct. And let's get to the spot early, Raptors. Get the lead early. Get that maple syrup lead to like double digits. So CJ Washington, Marat, Kogut, and Ed Malloy cannot do any kind of weird manipulation to help a lowly Charlotte Hornets team steal a win against us in a weird way. We don't want any of that. Just take care of business. Make it happen, Raptors. We believe in you and we love you. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the reaction to the game and also a preview for the first game against the Boston Celtics tomorrow night. Yeah, we're on the stretch run. All these games matter a lot. Tonight is a must win, Raptors. Don't play with your food. Make sure you get that W. Let's go, Raptors.